Coon Busters, how are you? This is, of course, a special edition. I'm trying to put these videos out that have been out here for a long time that any fool could have looked up. But I've learned people really don't look for truth. They expect it to fall on them like bird shit in a park. So I'm about to share a couple of shocking videos, one of which I saw 11 years ago. I've been angry ever since, and most of you haven't seen it. So without further ado, I'm going to put y'all on. Let me see. Should I get my veil? Maybe I won't get my veil today. I'll get my veil so it could be nice and black and nobody will get upset. And yes, I do have I've got a tablet with a bigger screen on it. I'm going to get a tablet. If I have to buy another Fire or whatever the hell that thing is called from what's that thing? Amazon. Those little crooked ass people. But I want y'all to see your Lord and Savior, Obama. Listen to his words. Don't blame me. You voted for him. I never did. And this started the ball rolling. Here we go. Obama lied to you. Obama always supported LGBTQ. Obama was always for the degenerate stuff. And you guys pretended. Is that it? I hope it's coming. And man, this thing has fought me today.
To Joe Salmonese, who's doing an outstanding job on behalf of HRC.
Human Rights Campaign.
To my great friend and supporter, Terry Bean, co-founder of HRC. Representative Patrick Kennedy. David Heebner, the ambassador designee to New Zealand and Samoa. John Berry, our director of OPM, who's doing a great job. Nancy Sutley, chairman of Council on Environmental Quality. Fred Hurd, Export-Import Bank. And my dear friend, Tipper Gore, who's in the house. Thank you so much, all of you. It is a privilege to be here tonight to open for Lady Gaga. I've made it. I want to thank the Human Rights Campaign for inviting me to speak, and for the work you do every day in pursuit of equality on behalf of the millions of people in this country who work hard in their jobs and care deeply about their families, and who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. For nearly 30 years, you've advocated on behalf of those without a voice. That's not easy. For despite the real gains that we've made, there's still laws to change, and there's still hearts to open. There are still fellow citizens, perhaps neighbors, even loved ones, good and decent people, who hold fast to outworn arguments and old attitudes, who fail to see your families like their families, who would deny you the rights most Americans take for granted. And that's painful, and it's heartbreaking. And yet, you continue leading by the force of the arguments you make and by the power of the example that you set in your own lives as parents, and friends, as PTA members and church members, as advocates and leaders in your communities, and you're making a difference. That's the story of the movement for fairness and equality. And not just for those who are gay, but for all those in our history who've been denied the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. For all who've been told that the full blessings and opportunities of this country were closed to them. The story of progress sought by those with little influence or power, by men and women who brought about change through quiet, personal acts of compassion and defiance wherever and whenever they could. It's the story of the Stonewall protests, when a group of citizens with few options and fewer supporters stood up against discrimination and helped to inspire a movement. It's the story of an epidemic that decimated a community, and the gay men and women who came to support one another and save one another, who continue to fight this scourge, who have demonstrated before the world that different kinds of families can show the same compassion in a time of need. And it's the story of the Human Rights Campaign and the fights you fought for nearly 30 years, helping to elect candidates who share your values, standing against those who would enshrine discrimination into our Constitution, advocating on behalf of those living with HIV/AIDS, and fighting for progress in our capital and across America. Now, this story, this fight continues now, and I'm here with a simple message. I'm here with you in that fight.
He's with them, y'all.
For even as we face extraordinary challenges as a nation, we cannot and we will not put aside issues of basic equality. I greatly appreciate the support I've received from many in this room. I also appreciate that many of you don't believe progress has come fast enough. I want to be honest about that, because it's important to be honest among friends. Now, I've said this before, I'll repeat it again. It's not for me to tell you to be patient, any more than it was for others to counsel patience to African Americans petitioning for equal rights half a century ago. But I will say this, we have made progress and we will make more. And I think it's important to remember that there is not a single issue that my administration deals with on a daily basis that does not touch on the lives of the LGBT community. We all have a stake in reviving this economy. We all have a stake in putting people back to work. We all have a stake in improving our schools and achieving quality, affordable health care. We all have a stake in meeting the difficult challenges we face in Iraq and Afghanistan. For while some may wish to define you solely by your sexual orientation or gender identity alone, you know and I know that none of us wants to be defined by just one part of what makes us whole. You're also parents worried about your children's futures. Your spouses who fear that you or the person you love will lose a job. Your workers worried about the rising cost of health insurance. Your soldiers, you are neighbors, you are friends, and most importantly, you are Americans who care deeply about this country and its future. So I know you want me working on jobs and the economy and all the other issues that we're dealing with. But my commitment to you is unwavering even as we wrestle with these enormous problems. And while progress may be taking longer than you'd like as a result of all that we face, and that's the truth, do not doubt the direction we are heading and the destination we will reach. My expectation is that when you look back on these years, you will see a time in which we put a stop to discrimination against gays and lesbians, whether in the office or on the battlefield. You will see a time in which we as a nation finally recognize relationships between two men or two women as just as real and admirable as relationships between a man and a woman. You will see a nation that's valuing and cherishing these families as we build a more perfect union. A union in which gay Americans are an important part. I am committed to these goals, and my administration will continue fighting to achieve them. Now, there's no more poignant or painful reminder of how important it is that we do so than the loss experienced by Dennis and Judy Shepard, whose son Matthew was stolen in a terrible act of violence 11 years ago. In May, I met with Judy, who's here tonight with her husband. I met her in the Oval Office, and I promised her that we were going to pass an inclusive hate crimes bill, a bill named for her son. This struggle has been long. Time and again, we faced opposition. Time and again, the measure was defeated or delayed, but the Shepherds never gave up. They turned tragedy into an unshakable commitment. Countless activists and organizers never gave up. You held vigils, you spoke out. Year after year, Congress after Congress, the House passed the bill again this week, and I can announce that after more than a decade, this bill is set to pass, and I will sign it into law. It's a testament. It's a testament to the decade-long struggle of Judy and Dennis, who tonight will receive a tribute named for somebody who inspired so many of us. Named for Senator Ted Kennedy, who fought tirelessly for this legislation. And it's a testament to the Human Rights Campaign and those who organized and advocated. And it's a testament to Matthew and others who've been the victims of attacks, not just meant to break bones, but to break spirits, not meant just to inflict harm, but to instill fear. Together, we will have moved closer to that day when no one has to be afraid to be gay in America. When no one has to fear walking down the street holding the hand of the person they love. But we know there's far more work to do. We're pushing hard to pass an inclusive employee non-discrimination bill. For the first time ever, an administration official testified in Congress in favor of this law. Nobody in America should be fired because they're gay, despite doing a great job and meeting their responsibilities. It's not fair. It's not right. We're going to put a stop to it. And it's for this reason that if any of my nominees are attacked, not for what they believe, but for who they are, I will not waver in my support, because I will not waver in my commitment to ending discrimination in all its forms. We are reinvigorating our response to HIV/AIDS here at home and around the world. We're working closely with the Congress to renew the Ryan White program, and I look forward to signing it into law in the very near future. We are rescinding the discriminatory ban on entry to the United States based on HIV status. The regulatory process to enact this important change is already underway. And we also know that HIV/AIDS continues to be a public health threat in many communities, including right here in the District of Columbia. Jeffrey Crowley, the director of the Office of National AIDS Policy, recently held a forum in Washington, D.C., and is holding forums across the country to seek input as we craft a national strategy to address this crisis. We are moving ahead on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We should not be punishing patriotic Americans who have stepped forward to serve this country. We should be celebrating their willingness to show such courage and selflessness on behalf of their fellow citizens, especially when we're fighting two wars. We cannot afford to cut from our ranks people with the critical skills we need to fight, any more than we can afford for our military's integrity to force those willing to do so into careers encumbered and compromised by having to live a lie. So I'm working with the Pentagon, its leadership, and the members of the House and Senate on ending this policy. Legislation has been introduced in the House to make this happen. I will end Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's my commitment to you. It is no secret that issues of great concern to gays and lesbians are ones that raise a great deal of emotion in this country. It's no secret that progress has been incredibly difficult. We can see that with the time and dedication it took to pass hate crime legislation. But these issues also go to the heart of who we are as a people. Are we a nation that can transcend old attitudes and worn divides? Can we embrace our differences and look to the hopes and dreams that we share? Will we uphold the ideals on which this nation was founded, that all of us are equal, that all of us deserve the same opportunity to live our lives freely and pursue our chance at happiness? I believe we can. I believe we will. And that's why I support ensuring that committed gay couples have the same rights and responsibilities afforded to any married couple in this country. I believe strongly in stopping laws designed to take rights away and passing laws that extend equal rights to gay couples. I've required all agencies in the federal government to extend as many federal benefits as possible to LGBT families as the current law allows, and I've called on Congress to repeal the so-called Defense of Marriage Act and to pass the Domestic Partners Benefit and Obligations Act. And we must all And we must all stand together against divisive and deceptive efforts to feed people's lingering fears for political and ideological gain. For the struggle waged by the Human Rights Campaign is about more than any policy we can enshrine into law. It's about our capacity to love and commit to one another. It's about whether or not we value as a society that love and commitment. It's about our common humanity and our willingness to walk in someone else's shoes. To imagine losing a job, not because of your performance at work, but because of your relationship at home. To imagine worrying about a spouse in the hospital with the added fear that you'll have to produce a legal document just to comfort the person you love. To imagine the pain of losing a partner of decades and then discovering that the law treats you like a stranger. If we are honest with ourselves, we'll admit that there are too many who do not yet know in their lives or feel in their hearts the urgency of this struggle. And that's why I continue to speak about the importance of equality for LGBT families, and not just in front of gay audiences. That's why Michelle and I have invited LGBT families to the White House to participate in events like the Easter egg roll, because we want to send a message. And that's why it's so important that you continue to speak out, that you continue to set an example, that you continue to pressure leaders, including me, and to make the case all across America. So tonight I'm hopeful, because of the activism I see in this room, because of the compassion I've seen all across America, and because of the progress we have made throughout our history, including the history of the movement for LGBT equality. Soon after the protests at Stonewall 40 years ago, the phone rang in the home of a soft-spoken elementary school teacher named Jean Manford. It was 1 a.m, and it was the police. Now, her son Morty had been at the Stonewall the night of the raids. Ever since, he had felt within him a new sense of purpose. So when the officer told Jean that her son had been arrested, which was happening often to gay protesters, she was not entirely caught off guard. And then the officer added one more thing. And you know, he's homosexual. Well, that police officer sure was surprised when Jean responded, "Yes, I know. Why are you bothering him?" And not long after, Jean would be marching side by side with her son through the streets of New York. She carried a sign that stated her support. People cheered. Young men and women ran up to her, kissed her, and asked her to talk to their parents. And this gave Jean and Morty an idea. And so after that march, on the anniversary of the Stonewall protests, amidst the violence and the vitriol of a difficult time for our nation, Jean and her husband, Jules, two parents who loved their son deeply, formed a group to support other parents and in turn to support their children as well. At the first meeting Jean held in 1973, about 20 people showed up. But slowly, interest grew. Morty's life tragically was cut short by AIDS, but the cause endured. And today, the organization they founded for parents, families, and friends of lesbians and gays has more than 200,000 members and supporters. It's made a difference for countless families across America. And Jean would later say, "I considered myself such a traditional person. I didn't even cross the street against the light. But I wasn't going to let anybody walk over Morty." That's the story of America. Ordinary citizens organizing, agitating, and advocating for change. Of hope stronger than hate. Of love more powerful than any insult or injury. Of Americans fighting to build for themselves and their families a nation in which no one is a second-class citizen, in which no one is denied their basic rights, in which all of us are free to live and love as we see fit. And tonight, somewhere in America, a young person Tonight, somewhere in America, a young person, let's say a young man, will struggle to fall to sleep, wrestling alone with a secret he's held as long as he can remember.
You can touch him,
Soon,
Obama.
perhaps he will decide it's time to let that secret out.
Let it
What
out.
happens next depends on him, his family, as well as his friends and his teachers and his community.
And it's
But it also
Vaseline.
depends on us, on the kind of society we engender, the kind of future we build. I believe the future is bright for that young person. For a while, there will be setbacks and bumps along the road. The truth is that our common ideals are a force far stronger than any division. And these ideals, when voiced by generation citizens, are what made it possible for me to stand here today. These ideals are what made it possible for the people in this room to live freely and openly, when for most of history that would have been inconceivable. That's the promise of America, HRC. That's the promise we're called to fulfill day by day, law by law, changing mind by mind. That is the promise we are fulfilling. Thank you for the work you're doing. God bless you. God bless America.
Okay, people. How'd y'all like that? You guys voted for his ass twice. And some of you
from Belmont University.
And some of you voted for Biden. Some of you voted for Biden. Yeah, your asses did. Nothing for us, everything for this sexuality thing. And the P-Flag story, tragically cut short by AIDS. If you're doing stuff and what you can catch a disease, you'll get one. That's not tragic. That's quite deliberate. People know it's very hard to get AIDS. There are only a few things that you can do to get it. If you don't stick it up there, trust me, nothing will be up there that doesn't need to come out. Somebody say amen. I don't hate nobody. Okay. I got plenty of gay family members. I love me some brothers, but they are not black women. A black man isn't a black woman. A black man isn't a black woman. A black woman is a woman. A woman is a woman. A man is a man. Have great love for men with limits. I ain't a girl. I don't want to have a waistline like a woman. I don't want to have long hair like a woman. I had long hair. It was annoying. I had braids and they really looked nice. And the sisters loved my braids. But all that, it was too bitchy sitting in the chair getting my hair done. I felt really stupid. Obama, you know what stand up means, have an erection in sissy slang, Sheila. And he did stand up for black folks in a gay way, but he never stood up for us racially. Sherry Sullins, you know about the lynching in Delaware, right? You know about that. People think we're making this up. I think Trump beat Biden in Delaware this last election. That's real talk. But I would be remiss or amiss if I didn't share also this beautiful video of this wonderful punk ass man that many of you were crying over a few months ago. I didn't cry. I felt great. Here we go. You wonder why they're crying over him.
I'm Congressman John Lewis from Atlanta, Georgia. I fought too hard and too long against discrimination based on race and color. Not to stand up and speak up against discrimination against our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. I see the right to marriage as a civil rights issue. You cannot have rights for one segment of the population or one group of people and not for everybody. Civil rights and equal rights must be for all of God's children.
All of God's children.
No government, state or federal, have the right to discriminate against someone because of the color of their skin or sexual orientation. I see marriage equality as a step, a necessary step in completing the Longhorn Brotherhood. what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called the beloved community, where we would lay down the burden of prejudice and just let people love each other. That's why I'm a Southerner, for the freedom to marry. I look forward to the day, not just in the state of Georgia, but all across the American South and all across our country, when the question of being free to fall in love and marry whoever you please will no longer be an issue. And that day will come. It will come in America in our lifetime.
Research. If you're an accredited investor, I have big news. In the last 12 months, I bought 5 major American brands. I bought Pure One Imports, Linens and Things.
Oh, yes, Lord.
Liberty Mutual. My name is Yasir Chow. I was in the Marine Corps from 2004 to 2008.
Said something that's just going to go down in history. The kids with the history books are going to have to say, who said, I'm reclaiming my time?
Reclaiming my time. Yes, you know, it is the kind of the regular order of business, but I seem to have popularized it, and it had different meanings for different people. And it inspired some people. Lives have been taking the crap off of people. They said it's over. And so I've been so pleased to hear the stories. And I'm just very pleased to see the activism. Like out here today, look at this marvelous pride parade. Look at all the people here representing so many organizations, so many groups. The LGBTQ community has been responsible for the kind of leadership that helps people to understand you don't have to take being dismissed, undermined, not regarded. If you fight, you can win. And that has been proven by the LGBTQ.
What is she fighting for?
And not be silenced.
Never. Not be silent. Always make the demand on government, on people who are making decisions about our lives, to do what is right, to respect everybody, and to provide a safety net for all of us.
What
and
about
to work
Skid
in ways
Row,
that
Maxine?
will increase the quality of life for every human being.
And you know, you're the only one that has said, we're tired. The American people, the citizens that are paying attention are tired of this every day. It's time to, take back the House, the Senate, our lives.
Well, it's absolutely true. We're at a time in the history of this country, the likes of which we've really not seen before. We've had presidents of the United States who we did not like, we did not agree with, who perhaps, had committed certain things that caused them to be called into question. But this president, he's the most deplorable human being I've ever seen in my life. This is a man that has respect for nobody. I was finished with him doing the campaign when he mimicked and mocked a disabled person. When he talked about women and called women dogs and pigs and talked about grabbing women by their private parts. This man just has no regard for other human beings. And so this country's got to stand up. And we've got to say, no, you do not represent us. We do not want you anymore. We're going to impeach you.
I mean, you're saying what we're all feeling and articulating. And so, you keep reclaiming your time.
I will keep reclaiming my time and reclaiming our time. Thank you so very much.
Right. November, here we come, the blue wave.
That's right, the blue wave is coming.
More surface.
The gay wave, too.
Happy Pride.
This is you, black pork chop feminist hero. Shame on you, broads. Shame on y'all.
Hey, everybody, stop clicking.
Hold on, I got more. We could do this all day. Where were y'all for 8 years of Obama that this crap went on? I got some more for you. Hold on. Here's another film by Punky. Hold on 1 second.
The people in that region.
Hold on. All right, here comes Punky.
When I was growing up in the South during the 40s and the 50s, the great majority of the people in that region believe that black people shouldn't be able to enter places of public accommodation. And they felt that black people shouldn't be able to register to vote. And many people felt that was right, but that was wrong. I think as politicians, as elected officials, we should not only follow, but we must lead our districts. You cannot tell people they cannot fall in love. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used to say, when people talked about interracial marriages, and I quote, "Races do not fall in love and get married. Individuals fall in love and get married." Why don't you want your fellow men and women, your fellow Americans, to be happy? Why do you attack them? Why do you want to destroy the love they hold in their hearts? Why do you want to crush their hopes, their dreams, their longings, their aspiration? We are talking about human beings, people like you, people who want to get married, buy a house, and spend their lives with the one they love. They have done no wrong.
Give it to me. Where's my video? I hate that glare. Hold on 1 second, y'all.
It's who we are. You know, it's about our housing, it's about our social services.
Let's do this again. Hold on. Gotta expand it. Now let's do it again.
Every step we take forward to end discrimination in our country is a patriotic act. We end discrimination, we improve equality, we make America more American.
Oh, drunk Nancy Pelosi.
In our community in San Francisco, the LGBT community is who we are. You know, it's about our housing, it's about our social services, about our legal system. Everybody's involved in everything. And so we have long taken pride in our community.
So there's real no separation between resistance and pride for you, is there?
No, and I think, in San Francisco, sometimes people think resistance is too soft a word.
I'm the only representative who's opened the gate from the state of California, believe it or not.
The only open the gate from the whole state. I did not know that.
Yeah, there have been, well, openly.
Right, of course. We know there's a lot of ones that aren't open.
As far as we know.
LA is home for me, so it's exciting.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's exciting to come back home. When I started this job 5 years ago, I left LA. The energy of this city and the energy of this state, whether it's the Compton cafeteria riots, you know, the stand up and folks at the Black Cat who made their voices heard and took to the streets
50 years ago, 1967.
That's what Pride is about.
The Pride Parade has grown in attendance and, involvement over the years, but this is it. To use this day for resistance speaks loads to the power of the LGBTQ community. And I think that this is going to inspire more people around the world, and certainly in this country. I know that you have the strength. I know that you have the courage. And I know that each of you understand you have the power. Stay woke.
In case you don't know it, Being woke is also a slang word for having your penis erect. Maxine Waters, y'all think, I'm sorry ass, traitor ass black feminist, pork chop feminist. They're in the spirit tip of selling us out until you sisters start going after these tramps. Woke means having your penis erect. Yes, it does. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. If you got gay friends and family, you learn all this stuff. And they're laughing at us. We were like, I'm woke. And they're like, hold on. There's another one. Because y'all need to see, Maxine is the worst one of them all. The biggest enemy.
I'm so just excited right now and beside myself to be in the same space and to be able to introduce our first award recipient, who many of you know affectionately as Auntie Maxine. I am honored to invite Congresswoman Maxine Waters to join me here to give her the Victory Elected Ally Award, because she is fierce and fabulous and an outspoken moral leader, the person that we need in these times. And she has long stood for our community, with our community, and on behalf of equality for all people. You know she needs no introduction, so please join me in giving a warm applause and to thank Auntie Maxine, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, for all she's done for our community.
All she's done for them.
Reclaiming my time.
She needs to reclaim her sex toy.
How are you doing this evening? It seems that you're having such a good time. I almost feel that I should not give this speech out here. You want to hear it? Yeah. All right. Okay. But first of all, let me just thank you for inviting me here. And I want to begin by thanking the Victory Fund and Institute's president and CEO, Aisha Moody Mill. And thank you for that introduction. I also would like to acknowledge the board of directors of the Gay and Lesbian Victory Institute and all of the fabulous work it is doing to cultivate LGBTQ leadership across this country at such a pivotal moment in our nation's history. So give yourselves a big round of applause. Now, I understand that some of my colleagues were going to be here this evening, and I don't know if they're here, but give a big round of applause to Kristen Cinema, Jared Colas, Carlos Guillermo. They are wonderful members of Congress, the first two, who are working very hard on just plain old equality issues, who are doing their work to ensure that this country is doing what it should be doing, to provide opportunity and to respect all human beings.
Except for black people.
Now, let me just say something to you about what you have done in a very short period of time. While the LGBTQ elected officials only make up less than 0.1% of all elected officials nationwide, the collective power and influence of all of you in this room have helped to bring about unprecedented change in our society in such a short amount of time. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed in 2011. Ending a ban on gay men and women serving openly in the military. In 2013, the Supreme Court struck down Section 3 of the Defense of Marriage Act, ruling that legally married same-sex couples are entitled to federal benefits, United States versus Windsor. In 2016, the Senate confirmed Eric Fanning to be Secretary of the Army, making him the first openly gay Secretary of the United States military branch of government. Round of applause for that. you have done wonderful work. Many of you have sacrificed. Many of you have been harmed in your advocacy. But again, I want you to understand, no one has done more for you than you have done for yourself. And while, of course, I am a friend, and you have many friends who have worked legislatively to do the kind of public policy work to support you, again, we recognize that what we have done is because of what you have taught us and what you have encouraged us to do and what you have not only taught us to do, speaking on your behalf, legislating on your behalf, but being real advocates, stepping outside of the box and telling it like it is. Thank you very, very much. And so, I've been active in the movement for many years. I was among the early opponents of the Defense of Marriage Act at Istoma and spoke out against the measure on the House floor before voting no on its passage. I led the effort to create the Minority AIDS Initiative, a federal program that since 1999 has funded organizations to reduce the spread of HIV in Black, Latino, and other minority populations and improve health outcomes among those living with HIV and AIDS. Our collective work at the federal, state, and local level through the courts and legislative process is work to change the hearts and minds of so many people in this country. The Victory Fund, since 1991, and the Institute have been at the forefront of this movement, working to ensure LGBTQ candidates have the resources, training, and support they need to win and advance an equality agenda nationwide. So I want to thank the Victory Fund for this important work, and I want you to know that I will be with you in the fights ahead. I'm in it, all right? Now, we've got big work to do. While you have done extraordinary work, have come a long way, sometimes there are roadblocks. Sometimes there are impediments, and you got to deal with them. The biggest impediment I know about is this thing called Trump.
Okay. We go pause that. We're tired of hearing her bitch about Trump. I'm sick of that. They must have slept together. They fight so much. Damn it. I can't stand it. I'm cutting that off. No, Maxine. Find something else to talk about. As I was saying, just more and more. Here's another promosexual Black politician. Come on, you gonna give it to me? Oh, I love this.
I've said over the years that I fought too long and too hard against discrimination based on race and color, not to stand up and speak out against discrimination based on sexual orientation. Apparently, the belt of the state has not read his recent history books. Maybe have not watched a segment of Eyes on the Prize. People of color in the American South, as the speaker indicated, could not register to vote simply because of the color of their skin. Could not take a seat at lunch counters in a restaurant. Could not take a seat on the front of the bus. Could not visit state capitals. We saw those signs marked white waiting, colored waiting, white men, colored men, white women, colored women. That have been put to a referendum. We would have never ever won. No one in the state legislature in Alabama or in Georgia or Mississippi or any of the 11 southern states of the old Confederacy from Virginia to Texas would have had the courage to say, let's go by referendum. The action of Congress, executive orders of presidents, and the courts brought down those signs that said white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. Just think a few short years in the American South, people stood in unmovable lines for the right to vote. People were asked to pass a so-called literacy test. to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap, the number of jelly beans in a jar. We had to march. We had to protest. Some of us were beaten. Some of us were jailed. I gave a little blood on that bridge in Selma. So here, we have to stand up. The question of civil rights, the question of human rights, the question of human dignity. Dr. King used to be asked, when it came to the question of interracial marriage, he would say, races don't fall in love and get married. Individuals fall in love and get married. If two men want to fall in love and get married, two women, it's their business. It's not the role of the federal government or the state government to intervene. A question of human dignity, a question of human rights. I think the day will come in New Jersey and all across our country when we will look back on this period and say we were just silly, we were just foolish. Let's do for this right, for this fair, and for this just.
Okay. Y'all see now why folk were crying over John Lewis. John Lewis wasn't fighting for people in his district. In fact, he must have liked that beating. He talked about it so much. I've heard folk who talk about sex like this dude talks about getting beat. Maybe that's what he liked that shit. I don't know, but I think it's ridiculous. It's incredible to me. It is amazing to me that y'all don't know this. Hold on, I'm gonna put this thing up here. I want to show you every single solitary group here in DC supports gay, not black. Okay? Nothing black has 100% support. Nothing. Nothing black. Not reparations, but gays do. I want to show you something that that these people put out. And by the way, Joe Biden has promised to pass the Gay Equality Act if he gets into office, which will effectively destroy civil rights as what we had people. This is what's being done. And Stacey Abrams, I know y'all think because she's a fat, chunky girl with no man that she's cool. I mean, just because you're fat, nobody wants you doesn't mean that you're lovable. Okay? I mean, you might be a contemptible jackass. Let me see if I can get this.
Needed.
Bold.
Right.
Hold on one
Urgent.
second.
Long overdue.
The idea that all people should be treated.
I want you to see.
Needed.
I want y'all to see what these people did just within the last year. This is what your leadership is doing, what the Boule is doing, people. What the Boule keeps doing. And it's amazing. Nobody sees this. Now, come on. Work with me now.
Needed.
Bold.
Right. Urgent.
Long overdue.
This is the Gay Equality Act. That's the head of the Urban League.
And fairly is a foundation of human existence.
It's an American bedrock.
All people are created equal.
Equality means we all can be free.
Every single generation has to ensure
Fair treatment, equal access, and equal dignity.
it's about walking down the street with my wife and my girls and knowing that we are
Her wife.
as much a member of the communities that we live in as anyone else. Without equality, our whole society suffers.
Right now, half of LGBTQ Americans live in a state without explicit protections against discrimination.
Transgender people and queer people are under attack all over this country.
That's not okay.
it is past time that the federal government recognize LGBTQ people.
Everyone should be afforded the protections of our nation's civil rights laws.
We need the Equality Act
now. The Equality Act is actually a very simple piece of legislation.
This bill will create a level playing field that no matter who you are and no matter who you love, you shouldn't have to endure discrimination just to have a job, just to go to school, just to get the housing that you need.
This is not about one party or another, about red or blue or purple. This is about making sure that we can be the best, fullest, most productive community that we can be.
That's the America we are striving.
This Coon didn't do anything for
That's why the Equality
people.
Act has the unprecedented support of more than 250 social justice organizations, child welfare, religious and medical organizations.
My message to LGBTQ folks and all of us who care about equality and dignity is it is time to push Congress to do the right thing.
We all need everyone to be a part of this.
To pitch in.
To the United States Congress, we need you to step up now and actually pass the Equality Act.
Americans are counting on you. 70% support passage.
Do the right thing.
Pass the Equality Act.
I'm Rabbi Jonah Pesman. Lala Zanel.
Jenny Kim.
Deborah Ness.
I'm President and CEO of the National Urban League, AIDS United.
The Center for American Progress.
Needles US.
It's time.
It's time. The time is now.
The Equality Act.
Let's get it.
The dark-skinned dude in the video you just saw, he's from Liberia. I keep telling you that they now have foreign gay coons masquerading as Black Americans to shove this stuff down our throat based on our struggle, which is why when any nigger asks me about Africans, Caribbeans, or anybody else, when we're fighting for our stuff here, I tell them either go to hell, B1, FBA, or ADOS. Get the hell out of my face. I can't go and push for sexual changes in Africa or the Caribbean without getting killed. These folks team up with white supremacists that want to exterminate us, and we're supposed to like them. To hell with that. To hell with that. I'm a Christian too, and ain't that my belief? Hello to everybody. I'm just putting these clips up here because obviously when I look at YouTube, I must look at different stuff from other people. I want y'all to see this dude. Now you see why I'm not crying that he's going.
The rights was signed, but he invited James Farmer and myself.
John Lewis was celebrating with President Lyndon Johnson. In the summer of 1965, it was signed. That photo is among the many treasured memorabilia that cover nearly every space in his office at the U.S. Capitol. He has served as a representative from the state of Georgia for over 3 decades.
I first met him in Atlanta.
In his office, he shared a book about adoption written by 2 gay fathers, as he talked about a bill he sponsored recently in Congress called the Every Child Deserves a Family Act. It seeks to create more loving adoptive families by ending discrimination based on gender, sexual identity, religion, and other factors.
It is so important for a child, little children, to have someone who cares about them, for someone who loves them, nurse them, look out for them.
He says the civil rights struggle was about human rights.
Just respect the dignity and the worth of every human being. That's what the movement taught us.
And those rights, he says, are worth standing up for.
It's the right thing to do. You cannot free one segment of the society. We have to free all of our people. Set the people free. Let people be human.
He says as a little boy growing up in the rural South, he often wondered why people saw each other in any other way.
I would ask my mother, I would ask my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? Why this? Why that? They would say, boy, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble.
Later, he got arrested for standing up against hate.
He got in a lot of trouble.
Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He joined Martin Luther King Jr. in delivering a message of hope to America.
To tell the American people, we're better. And we must get people to never hate. As they said over and over again, hate is too heavy a burden to bear.
Minds can be changed, he says, and he related a story about wanting to borrow a book from a neighborhood library when he was just a boy.
And we were told by the librarian that the library was for whites only and not for coloreds. I never went back to that library until July 5th, 1998, for a book signing of my first book. By this time, I'm in the Congress. It changed my life. So many black and white people showed up.
John Lewis plans to continue his longtime efforts to reverse the divisive rhetoric in our country and to create a community of simply human beings.
I'd like to see us just some way and somehow try to be kind to people. Take a lesson from the civil rights movement. Message of hope. Message of love. Just love everybody. I remember Dr. King saying on one occasion, he said, just love the hell out of everybody.
Love the hell out of them. I wonder how. Okay. I'm gonna stop in a second. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit more. This is the kind of news I get in DC. I wonder what the hell the rest of you black folk are doing. I don't know, maybe y'all listen to hip hop or something.
It's hard to believe you can be fired for this, but it's true. Half of Americans live in a state with no legal protections for LGBTQ people. They could be fired from their jobs, evicted from their homes, denied credit, or worse. Imagine you're a gay couple celebrating your anniversary. You walk into a restaurant to have a nice dinner. The manager or the server doesn't approve, says they won't serve you, tells you to get out. That's wrong. Imagine you're a transgender woman and you walk into a store to buy a dress. The clerk decides they don't like transgender people, doesn't want to sell you a dress, tells you they won't sell it to you. That's wrong. Imagine you're a lesbian couple with 3 kids. You've been dreaming of buying a house. You walk into the bank to get a home loan, but the manager of the bank doesn't approve of your relationship, doesn't like your family, refuses to give you credit. Imagine you're a gay couple who just got married, the best day of your life, but then your landlord finds out, decides to evict you. Imagine you're a transgender kid going to school every day. Your teacher won't use the right pronoun. The other kids are harassing you. The school won't let you use a restroom consistent with your gender identity. You should be able to do something about that. You don't have to imagine these things. They happen each and every day. That's why we need the Equality Act. The Equality Act would provide federal protections on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in all of these key areas of life: employment, housing, credit, education, jury service, public spaces and services,
Carpet munching.
and federally funded programs. The purpose of the Equality Act is to provide the same protections to LGBTQ people that already exist in federal law. But federal law is not perfect. There are ways to improve it as well. One of the things the Equality Act does is it adds protections for women. Right now, women are often charged more when they go into a dry cleaner than men for the same service, the same type of shirt. The Equality Act would fix that. If you're a person of color under current federal law, you're protected in a lot of ways. But if you walk into a retail store and the mall security trails you and your friends around the mall because you look suspicious, that's not illegal now, but the Equality Act would give you recourse.
Bullshit. They're not going to protect her.
The good news is the House of Representatives will soon be voting on the Equality Act. But we need your help. We need you to call your member of Congress and tell them to vote yes.
The CBC voted yes, y'all. 100%. 100%.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Cicilline. You can't hear me.
Cicilline.
I'm David Cicilline, representative from the 1st District of Rhode Island. Good afternoon. Welcome to everyone. Last December, Randall Kaufman of Middleburg, Florida, was evicted from his apartment after he casually mentioned to his landlady that he was gay. His landlord said, "Listen to me now. You have got to leave this place." She gave him less than 2 weeks to find a new place to live. Stacey Bailey is a former art teacher at Charlotte Anderson Elementary School in Arlington, Texas. On the first day of school in 2017, she introduced herself to her students with a slideshow that introduced her then fiance and now wife, Julie. She was forced out of that job after a parent complained, all because she lives in a state where it's legal to fire someone because of their sexual orientation.
Why would you tell that
These
sex
stories
stuff to
illustrate
kids?
the reality of life for millions and millions of LGBT Americans all across our country. On behalf of the fellow co-chairs of the Equality Caucus, Mark Takano, Mark Pocan, Sean Patrick Maloney, Angie Craig, Chris Pappas, Katie Hill, and Sharice Davids, I'm delighted to announce the introduction today of the Equality Act of 2019. And of course, this moment is especially sweet because we're introducing the Equality Act this year with a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. I want to thank Jeff Merkley and all of the 239 colleagues in the House who are co-sponsoring this measure. I want to particularly acknowledge our hero, Senator Tammy Baldwin, Senator Cory Booker. I particularly want to acknowledge the Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who has made the Equality Act a top priority in this Congress and has been a champion and advocate for our community from the very first day she arrived in Congress. I also want to thank our Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, our extraordinary Judiciary Chairman, Jerry Nadler, who's been a great proponent for our community, the Education and Labor Chairman, Bobby Scott, and our great civil rights icon, Congressman John Lewis. Thank you also to all of the advocates and activists who are here today and who are standing every day on the front lines of this fight. 4 years ago, when we first introduced this bill, the Supreme Court had just declared marriage equality the law of the land. It seemed like only a matter of time until LGBTQ Americans would be free from legal discrimination. But Donald Trump's election changed all of that.
Yay.
For the last 2 years, the right wing in this country has tried to return our community back to second-class status. Under the Trump administration, transgender members of the military can no longer serve openly.
Cool.
And as we saw last night, the Department of Defense is already implementing a rule to enforce this discriminatory policy. 2 justices opposed to marriage equality have shifted the balance of power on the court, and hate crimes targeting people based on their sexual orientation are on the rise. In most states in this country, a gay couple can be married on Saturday, post their wedding photos to Instagram on Sunday, and lose their jobs or get kicked out of their apartments on Monday, just because of who they are. This is wrong. Fairness and equality are core American values. We've moved closer toward these goals, but the fact is that millions of LGBTQ Americans are still less equal where they live. And we are reintroducing the Equality Act in order to fix this. Enacting and protecting civil rights laws is one of the most important things we can do in this building. I'm honored that we've had the opportunity to work with a coalition of civil rights organizations that are committed to defending the progress we've made in our country and are an important part of our effort to secure civil rights for every single American. It's vital for Congress to be clear that gender identity and sexual orientation are protected under the law, and individuals cannot be discriminated against on this basis. Any bill that expands existing civil rights law must never retreat from our commitment to the progress that we've made. It's vital and very important that we first do no harm. So let me be clear. Under our proposal, the very same protections that exist for other minorities in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 will protect the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people across America. We are asking for no more and no less. And we will get this bill passed, and we'll never do it, of course, at the expense of protections that are already currently enshrined in the law. We also know that in the weeks ahead, conservatives will do everything they can to kill this bill and block progress once again. They'll make outrageous claims because they know they can only succeed by scaring the American people. They'll claim religion as a basis to discriminate. They use fear because they can't win the debate on the merits. We cannot allow claims of religious freedom to be used to discriminate against an LGBT individual. Today in public life, you can't use religious freedom to justify discrimination against a biracial couple, a Jew, or a woman, for example. The same must be true when it comes to sexual orientation and gender identity. We're proud that more than 280 national and state organizations are already backing this bill. More than 160 leading businesses want it to become law. And according to a new poll out this week from the Public Religion Research Institute, a majority of Americans, in each and every state believe that the law should protect LGBTQ people from discrimination. So, my friends, the time has come for full LGBTQ equality. As Americans, we all know that discrimination is wrong. Let's prove it by passing the Equality Act. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague in the Senate, Senator Merkley, who has been a great champion for our community and leading the effort in the United States Senate. Thank you, Jeff.
Senator Jeff Merkley from the full equality state of Oregon. President Lyndon Johnson said that freedom is the right to share fully and equally in American society. It is the right to be treated in every part of our national life as a person equal in dignity and promise to all others. Today, we do not have freedom for LGBTQ Americans. They are not enabled to share fully and equally in our national life. They are not treated as individuals equal in dignity and promise to all others. In 29 states today, it is still legal to discriminate against Americans because of who they are or whom they love. In over half our country, you can in fact stand and make a lifetime commitment in marriage to your partner and yet be thrown out of your apartment and thrown out of a restaurant, fired from your job. It's well past time we change that. So let's pass a National Equality Act, and let's do it this year. Standing together, we introduced this bill in 2015. We were in the LBJ room of the Senate, looking out at the Supreme Court above the row of cameras, and we could see that promise etched into stone above its doors. It said, equal justice under law. Isn't it time we make it more than a slogan, make it a reality for LGBTQ? We introduced the bill again in 2017, and now we're standing here in 2019. But this year is different. This year is different because for the first time, we have a leader of a chamber of the U.S. Congress who is determined that that chamber debate and pass this bill. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi. And we have a leader in David Cicilline and his team of House colleagues. And we have a fabulous team of leaders in the Senate with Senator Baldwin and Senator Booker. And in the Senate, we now have 47 sponsors of the bill. And I'm pleased to announce that an hour ago, Senator Collins has joined us as the first. We thank all those who have worked outside this building to produce the 280 organizations that David referred to, the huge list of 160 businesses, 40 trade and professional organizations. But a few of those groups that really worked intensely, quickly mentioned: the Human Rights Campaign, the Center for American Progress, the National Center for Transgender Equality, the National Women's Law Center, the American Civil Liberties Union, Lambda Legal, National Center for Lesbian Rights, GLAAD, National Partnership for Women and Families, Family Equality Council, Transgender Law Center, SAGE, and PFLAG, and of course many others. A big round of applause for the enormous work they've been doing to make this happen. LBJ talked about freedom. So later this spring, when the House votes for and passes the Equality Act, let the bells of freedom ring out across this country, just as they did when we passed the 13th and 14th Amendments. and in 1920 with the women's right to vote, in 64 with the Civil Rights Act, in 65 with the Voting Rights Act. Let the bells of freedom ring this year in 2019 for full equality for the LGBTQ community. And when those bells ring in the House of Representatives, let that sound go down the corridor to the U.S. Senate, and let's insist that this bill be on the floor of the Senate, and let's make this year the bells ring not only in the House, but also in the Senate, and we pass the Equality Act of 2019. Thank you. And now, I'm just getting warmed up. We are all going to be in this fight in a fabulous, important way together and change history of this nation. And a lot of that opportunity is because of the majority in the Senate, in the House, of a pro-equality Americans who truly understand the vision of our Constitution, and a leader, Nancy Pelosi, that I now present to you, who is going to lead this effort to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Merkley. I accept your kind words on behalf of our House Democrats. Overwhelmingly support this legislation, and I thank David Cicilline and the members of the task force for their work to bring us to this day. I remember full well the day you described in the LBJ room when we stood there with you taking the lead in the Senate, David in the House, and right between the two of you, John Lewis. John Lewis giving his imprimatur as to the path that we were going down. So I thank you. It's a pleasure to welcome back Senator Schumer when he gets here, a former member, and Senator Baldwin, a former member of whom we are very proud, and thank you for your leadership, as well as Senator Booker, not of this House, but certainly of this Congress, and we're very proud of as well. I'm proud to join all of you. As I was listening to the comments that were being made by Congressman Cicilline, and I think I can call you chairman. Call everybody chairman when you're in the majority, and Senator Merkley, I was thinking back to the path to this day. When we first got the majority, we said we had four goals that we wanted to achieve. One was to pass the hate crimes legislation. Senator Baldwin was very much a part of that in the House, and Senator Schumer, of course, in the Senate, and then Senator Baldwin in both houses. That was it. Next was supposed to be end discrimination in the workplace. But we all came to the conclusion, led by our outside groups, that we should be doing repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell next. So that rose to number 2 on the agenda, not in terms of importance, but in terms of chronology and getting the votes. So then, with the help of so many of you, we repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And that was Next was marriage equality, which the courts happily recognized marriage equality. So we had one left, ENDA. But everybody just said, why should we be ending discrimination in the workplace? What about in every place, in housing, in every place? So that's when Mr. Cicilline stepped forward and said, we'll open the Civil Rights Act. Not a small thing to do. And that's why Mr. Lewis and the Congressional Black Caucus and all of our members were so important in getting behind that fully. So here we are today. Here we are today. We're proud to stand with members from both sides of the Capitol to take a momentous step toward full equality with LGBTQ Americans and for our country. We take great pride in serving with a record-breaking 10 LGBTQ Americans in the Congress. Yes, happy about that. Once again, salute David Cicilline, a champion of equality. Thank you, Senator Merkley, for your tireless leadership in the Senate. Our inside maneuvering, though, is only possible because of the success of the outside mobilization. So I want to join David Cicilline and Senator Merkley in acknowledging the work of our outside friends who made us. advocates and allies have always made the difference in passing fully inclusive hate crimes legislation, repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, defeating the Discriminatory Defense of Marriage Act, remember that horrible thing, and more. And forget about it. Again, and your mobilizing and organizing will make the difference once again. So I thank all of you for that. And let me just say on that score that so many of you have reported to us that many in corporate America and the business community are fully behind the Equality Act. And I think that is going to be very important. Our founders, in their wisdom, wrote in our beautiful preamble to the Constitution, the blessings of liberty. Talked about the blessings of living, which were to be the birthright of all Americans. That's why I'm especially upset that last night we're all sickened and saddened to see the president revive his hateful transgender service ban. No one with the strength and bravery to serve in the military should be turned away. Turned away. So sad. I had some trans in uniform folks here for the State of the Union address, and they were so saddened because they have a high percentage of participation in our military, and to have that not get its full respect and in fact lessened by the president's action. So our work, we have important work to do. We'll be fighting to defeat this disgusting ban, and we will succeed. While the president betrays our values with his ban, the Congress is bringing our nation closer to the founding promise of equal liberty and justice for all with the Equality Act. Sexual orientation and gender identity deserve full civil rights protections in the workplace and in every place. Education, housing, credit, jury service. You want jury service? And public accommodations. That is why we're proud to stand with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, many of whom are here with us. Bobby Scott, we're hearing from Bobby Scott. We're proud, as David said, that this bill has nearly 240 bipartisan co-sponsors in the House, and look forward to swift, strong, and successful vote on this bill. And now it would have been my pleasure. Did he come?
Tammy will stand in for that.
Okay. I was going to yield to me. Okay, Chuck is on the way. Okay, he'll be here shortly. I'm pleased to welcome back to the House side a place where we took great pride, where she was the first lesbian to be elected to the Congress of the United States.
Thank you. So I want to thank Speaker Pelosi. Your words and your actions give us such great hope. And the colleagues that I get a chance to work with on this legislation, bipartisan now in both houses, it's an extraordinary honor. I do recognize that I have this honor of having crashed through a glass ceiling in the House some years ago and becoming the first out LGBTQ member of the United States Senate in our nation's history. And I recognize that when you're in the room, the conversation is with you. But if you're outside of the room, the conversation is about you. I also said when I was first elected that I didn't run to make history, I ran to make a difference. And I feel like we're making a tremendous difference today.
Damn.
But I wasn't always in high national office. At one point, I was a 20-something-year-old, just out of college, my future in front of me, newly out, and terrified about this choice between living my life with integrity and honesty, or, and I considered it an or at that time, pursuing my dreams and my ambitions, which involved public service, because I wasn't at all convinced that I could have both. And fortunately, there were some amazing leaders who had my back and said, give it a try, we'll be here with you. And I have this incredible honor. But I realized that in this country, all these years later, and I'm talking about making my first step for public office in the mid-1980s, that there are still people who see discrimination occur in the workplace, in housing, in public services and accommodations, in education, in other arenas, and feel like they still face that choice. It makes a difference when any level of government or any corporation says that this sort of discriminatory behavior and action is wrong. It makes a difference. And it provides those of us in our community, the LGBTQ community, with the tools that we need to fight back. I am so proud to be a part of the reintroduction of the Equality Act. And I just want to exhort all of you here today who, some with tears in their eyes, because this is such a historic and powerful moment, but to think about what we all need to do together and with our allies in order to join together in a different room at a different time and see it signed into law. We all need to share our stories, and we all need to be involved. So thank you for joining us today to take in this historic moment, and we look forward to the next. And I am now proud to introduce Chairman Nadler, who I had the honor of working with on the House Judiciary Committee many, many years ago through many of these fights. We are so delighted to have you here and leading the effort in committee. Representative Jerry Nadler, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much, Tammy, Senator Baldwin. I am very proud to join my colleagues today to mark the introduction of the Equality Act. I want to thank a distinguished member of the Judiciary Committee, Congressman Cicilline, for all of his efforts in crafting this landmark legislation. As you know, the bill would prohibit discrimination against LGBTQ people and would ensure the full integration into all areas of American life, including employment, housing, credit, education, public accommodations, federally funded programs, and jury service. It does this by clarifying existing civil rights laws to explicitly include coverage of sexual orientation and gender identity as forms of sex discrimination, which are prohibited by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Almost 50 years ago, patrons at the Stonewall Inn, an LGBTQ bar in my congressional district, said enough was enough. They said enough to police harassment, enough to the mistreatment of the LGBT community, and they rose up. An historic moment in the fight for equality in our country. Today, we build upon the legacy of the people who fought for equality on that day, and of generations of LGBTQ people and of LGBTQ advocates and activists since then, to add our voices in saying enough is enough. Enough to the prejudice, enough to the harassment and indignities, enough to anti-LGBTQ discrimination in our laws and our society. For 13 years, I sponsored bills to repeal the so-called Defense of Marriage Act and to grant to gay and lesbian people the right to sponsor their partners, they weren't spouses because they couldn't get married legally, for immigration under the Immigration Act. couldn't pass those bills. They were considered much too radical at the time. But the Supreme Court, first in Windsor and then in Obergefell, came to our rescue. We cannot depend upon this Supreme Court to repeat that. Now we are going to win. We're going to win with this bill. This bill is going to be enacted into law. I'm a proud original co-sponsor of the Equality Act. I pledge to do everything within my power as chairman of the Judiciary Committee to promptly move the legislation. By passing the Equality Act, we will take a critical step forward in our efforts to end the invidious discrimination that LGBTQ people have suffered. My text here says from far too long. I'll say throughout recorded history. As we say, enough is enough. It is my pleasure to say not enough and to introduce the Minority Leader of the U.S. Senate, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerald. And for you in the press, I've known him for 40 years? More. Jerrold. Everyone gets it wrong, but they're not getting it wrong anymore, Gerald. Okay. Anyway, it's great to be here. I want to thank
CHAIRMAN.
EXCELLENT. NANCY. HIMYNAMEISCHUCK. All right, enough. LGBTQ. The best letters. I wasn't smart enough to think that up. Tammy Baldwin told me. Anyway, it's great to be here, and this is serious stuff. Equality. That is what America is all about. And the LGBTQ movement has shown great progress, but there are always barriers and always bumps in the road.
Like Jesus.
I am confident we will succeed because of what the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, which is the arc of history is long, but it bends in the direction of justice. And there is nothing more just than treating all people equally and saying, we don't care who you are, what you are, we're judging you on the merits. The Equality Act we're introducing would ensure that it's hard to believe, with all the progress we have made, that it is still legal to discriminate against the LGBTQ community. It is outrageous in 21st century America that this has not changed. But we are here to change it. We are here to change it. The Trump administration doesn't get it. Just last night, they approved a new, cruel, discriminatory, hateful ban on transgender service members, people who are risking their lives for us, and they're saying, you're not equal to us.
Go Trump.
And we have to stand up for our troops who stand up for us.
Go Trump.
We have to stand up for our troops who stand up for us. So let's keep speaking out. Let's be standing for civil rights for every American, because in the end, when we work hard, equality does prevail in America. Thank you. And it is now my pleasure to call on a great senator from Virginia, B-O-B-B-Y. CHAIRMAN. Soon we hope to call some of our people chairman next year.
Sell out, Coon.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. Thank you for your leadership. I'd like to thank Congressman Cicilline and Senator Merkley for their leadership of this important legislation. I'm very proud to stand with my colleagues in both chambers of Congress to support the Equality Act to ensure that civil rights protections are afforded to LGBTQ community that all other Americans finally have. These Americans are left vulnerable to a patchwork of state laws and still lack the basic protections in many states. Additionally, the Trump administration, as we have heard, has rolled back many protections to the LGBTQ community that were made available under President Obama. And particularly, he's been relentless on his attacks on the transgender community. The Equality Act makes it clear that discriminating against the LGBTQ community in hiring, promotion, termination, and harassment is illegal. It will ensure that LGBT Americans cannot face discrimination in an array of federal programs like health care, child welfare, nutrition, public education, financial assistance for higher education because of their gender identity or sexual orientation. I look forward to holding hearings on the Equality Act in the Committee on Education and Labor that reaffirms the current protections under the law and explains how this bill is an opportunity for Congress to make clear that all Americans are equally protected against discrimination under the law. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the passage in the near future. And give another warm welcome to David Cicilline. David.
Thank you.
Cicilline.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. I just want to conclude by saying thank you again to all of my colleagues who enthusiastically became original co-sponsors. This bill was introduced in large part and given a very important number because of the extraordinary commitment of our speaker. But I also want to say thank you to all of the advocacy groups that Senator Merkley listed who have been so instrumental over the last several years of putting this together. We would not be here today but for those groups. So thank you. On to passage. And we're going to make ourselves available. I know other members of the Equality Caucus are here for questions for any of the meetings, but thank you all for being here.
Okay, people. Now you heard it. And look at how the CBC is all up under the Gay Equality Act. This is incredible. Shiva Jackson Lee, all of them. None of them is for us. None. 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 And things that we need. You would think that gay folk have been completely destroyed and enslaved, that they're being shot in public and killed like this guy, Mr. Floyd. You get where I'm coming from. George Floyd, and that's not happening. It isn't happening. It's not true. People are not killed and murdered like that, like what happens to black people. We're still at the bottom. We're still catching hell. We're still catching hell, folks. And look at how the entire CBC, what I want to let you know, many of these people who tell you that they support reparations, but they've never voted for it 100%. I want to assure you that every single solitary black person in the Congress of the United States supported the gays. They will never do it for black people. I just want y'all to understand that. We don't get that kind of support from them. And there's something wrong with that. Brother and sister, there's something wrong with that. And I don't care if someone thinks that I'm mean or hateful to suggest that we get treatment that we've long been overdue, that we long deserved. These folks in the CBC and all the other organizations fight for the rights of everyone but us. Everyone but us. And it's time for us to get mad. I want people to understand me when I say to you that black folks, black people are going to have to get angry with people that call themselves our leadership. We should never have people betray us like what's happening right now. Are you understanding me? This happens year after year after time after time after time again. And we have to get sick of this. When you guys were watching this Equality Act, which you need to understand, this is the legislation that would guarantee educational access, economic access, everything that you could dream of is being handed on a silver platter to rich, white, millionaire, gay entrepreneurs. I almost need to get a book. Yeah, I wonder, I got some new books. Why I keep buying books, a lot of times you cannot prove without the details. And so, by the way, I got 2 books. No, I got a box of books today, but 2 that I ordered. This was a book I really wanted. So when we do a special Black men section, Black men and divorce, it's really hard to get. It's one of the few books that talks about things from Black men's perspective. And of course, a question of gender. More feminist garbage for us to talk, so you can look at this. I want people to continue. I'm hearing that people are buying books. I need to buy another book, and unfortunately, yes, guys, when I look at it, and it like hurts because it's like, God, I don't want to spend all my money. But thankfully, every now and then, people drop me a donation. There's a book, and the reason I thought to buy the book, and by the way, it's expensive. If I'm lucky, I'll get a $35 copy one. If I'm not lucky, I probably won't buy the book because it'll run about $80. And just to show you, so you can see it and hear it for yourselves. Someone has to do it. The libraries are closed. All this stuff that's going on under COVID is to destabilize people. A lot of stuff I cannot prove because I can't go in and get it or check it out, or you understand, even these vaccines, people are not allowed to know. They've got us clusterfucked by this quarantine and this closure lockdown, where places where people tended to get information are often closed or not open to the public. So you can't even research unless that's your job. And when it comes to our people, our history and facts tend to be obscured, hidden, or deliberately hidden in full view without you knowing it's being hidden from you. But I wanted y'all to see this Equality Act foolishness. I want y'all to see this is what these coons do. The coons literally go right to us and game us, right? And play games with us and lie to us, right? And unfortunately, 33.59. Yeah, I'm trying to pay a bill. We don't have any help from anywhere. You know what I'm saying? We don't have any help from anywhere. We've got to become our own help. And once you begin to see how sinister our Black leadership is, how dirty our Black leadership is, how compromised, how they're fighting for everybody but us. One of the things that you need to know, there's a very good documentary called Loose Change. And I'm tempted to show Loose Change to you so you can see it for yourself and understand that the foundation of the gay movement is business, is money. It isn't really about rights. It's about cash money. The gay movement, the white male homosexual movement, is a business money-making thing. It has nothing to do with human rights. You think it does. They're telling you it's similar, but it's completely different. The basis of this is an economic exclusionary movement. And if you want, let me pay my storage bill and I'll bring this film up so you can see it. Please don't blame me. I research, and yes, I look at everybody's stuff. The only way you can know sometimes is you have to read some really sick stuff. But the film, once you see it, let me pay this bill. and we'll be in good shape. And I'll be very happy to get everything moving. You've got to see this film, and I'm gonna just put it up so y'all can see it. People will think that I'm messing with people. They'll think I don't like people. Actually, I care so much about people. I'm sick of this stuff, man. I'm really sick of it. I'm sick of folks not being able. They've made it very hard for black men and black women to be happy, to meet one another, to love one another, to come on, what is this? Hold on one second. Hold on one second. The bastards. We used to have a little bit of ability, as black men and black people to be happy with one another. And what is going on with this? I'm trying to get into my account, and this thing won't let me in my account. And this is annoying. I just want to get into my stupid account, and it won't let me do it. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. 3. Okay. So. I'm sorry about this. Okay, hold on. What is going on with this? 375. Oh, okay. I see what's going on. Hold on just one moment. And once I have that done, I don't have to worry about this. Okay. Oh God, I have to do this all over again. Okay. I'm sorry. But I'll do this. Let me solve this real fast. Let me get you one more John Lewis, oldie but goodie. His degenerate ass. He's always doing something nasty I don't agree with. Oh, I can count on John Lewis to give me something bad. Where'd they find him? Damn. He is so evil. And everybody thinks he's so wonderful. I'm John Lewis. I don't have any dignity. I don't have any dignity. I'm John Lewis. I suck dick. I'm John Lewis. I mean, it's really, God, give me a break. Where is it? I was looking at it, and it was John Lewis doing something. John, hold on. There is something else I want. Let me get an Obama thing. Biden, gay marriage. I need y'all to see this. This is what you guys keep voting for. Let me get this lying nigga on here. Y'all love him. It's so sad. It's hard being a black person to think.
Keeping them honest tonight with insistence from the White House, the Vice President Joe Biden's comments about gay marriage this weekend aren't at all different.
Let me just hook y'all up one more time. You guys love these coons. I hate these fluorescent lights. Damn it. They cause such a glare. I know what to do. That gives me a relief, right? I kind of like that. Hold on, let's do it again. Let's hit it again. Give me a second to get my...
And from President Obama's stance on the issue. On Meet the Press, Vice President Biden said that more and more Americans are starting to understand that gay marriage comes down to this. Who do you love and who will be loyal to the person? And will you be loyal to the person that you love? Sounds like the strongest endorsement for same-sex marriage yet from the highest-ranking administration official so far. When asked flat out if that means he's now comfortable with same-sex marriage, here's how Biden answered.
I am Vice President of the United States of America. The President sets the policy. I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying others are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. And quite frankly, I don't see much of a distinction beyond that.
Well, the White House insists what he said was not a departure from President Obama's position. They say he didn't say anything the president hasn't said before. Senior Obama campaign advisor David Axelrod tweeted this, quote, "What VP said, that all married couples should have exactly the same legal rights, is precisely POTUS's position." POTUS, President of the United States. Keeping him honest, though, the president's position on same-sex marriage is anything but precise. Mr. Biden said he's comfortable with the fact same-sex couples are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. But that's not currently the case, even in states where same-sex marriage is allowed, and it's certainly not President Obama's position. There is, for instance, no federal recognition of same-sex marriage. Therefore, same-sex couples who don't share all the rights heterosexual couples do. For instance, if one member of a same-sex couple is from a foreign country, the immigration department doesn't allow that person to get a green card if they marry. A heterosexual couple would have that right. Biden did not say directly that the federal government should recognize same-sex marriage. He could have been misspeaking or not fully informed on the issue. Mr. Obama talks about work to be done and about his position, quote, evolving over the past few years.
Whether gays and lesbians should be able to get married. I've spoken about this recently. As I've said, my feelings about this are constantly evolving. I struggle with this.
You've said your position is evolving. You said you're struggling with it. What more do you need to know?
Well, I probably won't make news right now, George, but I think that there's no doubt that as I see friends, families, children of gay couples who are thriving, that has an impact on how I think about these issues.
Again, what I know is what his position was during the campaign and what it is now. He's been very clear about it. He was very clear in the campaign. He's very clear about the fact that his position that it's evolving. The president said that he was evolving.
So did Vice President Biden's view of same-sex marriage just evolve farther and faster than the president's? When Biden was asked whether the president would support same-sex marriage in a second term, he didn't say, or in fact, he said he didn't know the answer to that question. Recent polling shows about half of Americans favor legalized same-sex marriage, and there's a push from some Democrats, including Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, to make support for it part of the platform of this summer's convention. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney today says he doesn't have any update on the president's personal views on same-sex marriage. CNN's Jessica Yellen pressed Carney on why the president won't be more direct on the issue.
Will he or won't he support gay marriage in a second term?
The president was asked this and said that his views on his personal views on this were evolving.
Everybody deserves to be able to live and love as they see fit. I don't have to tell the people in this room we've got a ways to go in the struggle. Mm-hmm. What is he referring to if not gay marriage?
Well, I think you have heard him say, and those in the administration like myself who speak for him, that he strongly opposes efforts to restrict rights, to repeal rights for same-sex couples.
So can you explain then clearly how Vice President Biden, who said there is a consensus building toward gay marriage in this nation, and then came out yesterday saying he is absolutely comfortable with men marrying men and women marrying women having equal rights, is not an endorsement of gay marriage.
Well, look, I think the vice president expressed his personal views. He also said he was evolving on the issue. I think the description.
He did not say that, Jay.
He did.
No, the spokesperson said
Okay.
that afterwards.
Let me just be clear though. The vice president made what he said about the protection of rights of citizens is completely consistent with the president's position.
Insulin injections can make diabetes complicated. Meet Omnipod. It delivers insulin.
Okay, y'all. I got my rent paid. Whew. Oh my God. I am so glad they make these things so difficult. God. Let me put this video up for y'all so you can see I'm not making this up. I really don't lie to people about stuff. As crazy as I am, I'm an honest person. I'll tell you the damn truth about things. I just have to expose. I want you to understand where this comes from, and I don't want to tell you because in all the years I was in school learning stuff, I could not get the truth to it. People didn't want you to really understand. Let me see. Did everything get paid? What do I owe now? That's 0, 0, 0. Okay, I'm good. Now, I'm going to treat you guys to one of my films out of my account. It's not my fault. I'm going to rip off and take advantage of Amazon. Let me see. What is that thing? It's called Loose Change. No, that's not it. What is it? I'm looking for it. Give me 1 second. I need a book. The book is called, let me get you the name of the book. I'm trying to get the last one that I can find. In fact, there are a couple I want to show you that I'm going to try to, this is called American Eugenics. And part of what's going on with this LGBTQ and so forth is connected to eugenics. I just need to try to, I think the book I want runs about 40. Loose Change is about 9/11, but there's another book. I'm going to find it. 1 second. Documentary. I'm going to get the name of it. It's like Loose Change. It's something like that. And forgive me for not getting the title right. Documentary. Hold on. Documentary. Hold on 1 second, because I have it. And someone said get it. Documentary on hold on 1 second. I think the guy's name is Chuck Holmes. Forgive me, I don't always remember these people's names. Forgive me, instead of loose change, it's seed money. I'm sorry. I don't watch this stuff enough. It doesn't always come to mind. Let me pull up the video. I hope it grosses you out as much as it did me. Y'all need to see what's going on. Oh my God, don't tell me that you got to buy it. If you saw it, man, you'd understand this is crazy. The origin of this hmm. That's amazing. I'm looking to see if this. Okay. All right. I found it. I am prepared to punish you guys with reality. Y'all need to see what y'all up against. Now let me lay out why you. I don't want you to love this, but you need to know what it is. All of the movements. The book that I was looking at. Let me get the title of the book so you can know what it is, and the reason I want to get it is a book that shows the link between. How many of you know that the basis of the internet, if you wonder why there's so much, does anyone know why there's so much censorship and scrutiny of what people say online? Do you know? Do you have any idea why it's so hard on straight people? Does anyone know why the internet is such a control freak thing? Does anyone have an idea? Anybody? There's 66 of you. This is class. I'm asking y'all a question. I constantly give people answers and information. Now I'm asking people for 1 second to venture as to why there's so much censorship and sexual fascism online. Why? Can anyone answer? Sheila says she has no idea. Thank you for being honest. Is anyone willing to wager to guess as to why? Saying that the media is complicit in the agenda isn't fully answerable. Saying it's left isn't the answer. I'm sorry. I'm going to be a difficult teacher. Can anyone guess as to why this is so powerful? And the agenda, everybody's on the agenda. So they can control what we know is obvious. I need more depth. Can someone think of some of the reasons as to why it might be like this? And I'm not making it easy. Controlling the narrative is more or less that answer has been given before. Now, I'm going to simply greet you all in the words of MFM, 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 MFM. MFM is everybody else's idea. Okay, the people who run the internet are gay isn't really the answer. Do you guys give up? Social programming, that's the obvious, but it's not the full motive or what got them there. So is it fair to say I'm going to wait until I'm going to give you a full whole minute and a half? Does anybody know? Keep trying. Hi, happy nappy cappy. Genetic destruction. Okay, I mean, these are nice guesses, but they're not getting you there. Y'all are frustrating me. I'm glad this isn't my first date. I'd be angry. Okay. I'm going to wait until 11:08 Eastern Standard Time. Somebody, don't I have an A student? Aren't there any A students? At least one, please. Just somebody. Think out the box. Okay. Adolph Spencer just giving up, just punking out, saying give it to him. Okay. It's 11:08. I'm not really a difficult teacher. I like feeding, giving people the info. Okay. Erica, you're doing it again. Let me make this simple for you. The question is, why is there so much censorship in favor of LGBTQ folks online? Would anyone have there are many good answers that are in the ballpark, but the specific answer. You're still doing it. Erica, thanks for trying. Thank you all for trying. It's 11:08. Y'all don't get it. And it's because we don't get taught things. Things just happen to us. Me too. All of us. They have systematically moved in such a way for us not to know what's going on with us in the midst of it. All the answers that people gave were reasonable answers. But because everything is driven by money and cash, the answer is the reason that gay people have such a leg up in high tech and in the internet and so forth is because they and other people that are sexually diverse, if I could be diplomatic, were the only people willing to give up credit card numbers to buy porn and to buy tricks and other things over the internet. They are the people that made high tech profitable. Straight people or most normal people would not give their credit card numbers up to anyone. It was people who could not get sex or could buy porn or could look at people's private parts and all. They were willing, in order to get sexual access or products that were gay, that were deviant, that were kiddie porn. In fact, that's the origin of Bitcoin. How do I buy some sex and nobody busts me? And damn it, I really want to screw that little kid I see. And man, that kid was, and they would put out little teasers so you can see just a little bit of flesh, but you have to put the credit card down to get it. We're going to give it to you, but you got to pay. And the first people, Blockbuster, all these people, the first of the credit cards online, sex, deviant sex in particular, the kind of sex ordinary people can make it without, for the people that needed their gay porn and their twisted porn and all this nasty stuff, they would put their credit cards, they were so into their little videos and sex toys and dildos and so forth that they didn't want to go out of the house and be seen purchasing, that they would use their credit cards. And so the internet was oriented financially and capital to go for that market that they knew would put that motherfucking money on the table. They knew. In fact, let me get this book that I was looking at from A Books, because the gay movement cares less about gay people as human beings than it does the money of wealthy, sex-driven people will spend money that other folks either don't have or won't do. And if you live in an economy where everything is about making more money and more money and more money and more money, think about it. Who's going to buy more condoms? A man that has a wife that doesn't want to get her pregnant, or a young gay dude that's want to screw everything he can? Who's going to buy the most condoms? Who's going to buy the most lube? Who's going to rent hotel rooms more often? Y'all don't look at it that way. They do. These folks live for the here and now. If you're gay, you're likely to be depressed. You're going to buy more pharmaceuticals. You're going to snort more dope. You're going to drink more alcohol. You're going to smoke more cigarettes, right? You're going to eat out more because you don't have a wife cooking for you, or you don't like cooking. You will spend more money when you eat because you don't have to have family meals to feed children. This is very, very intelligent. People who are fatalistic and greedy and driven only to make money would see a family where man and woman are frugal and count their pennies as not really good customers. Look, I've worked in retail, and I will keep saying this to you a million times. I do not hate people based on sexuality. There have been some folks who've been same-sex attracted, who've been incredibly loving and kind to me. I will repeat that. I'll say that when everyone's yelling and cursing at me. I do not hate people based on sexuality, but the scriptures and other things tell us what's wrong. You got to tell people, I like you, but what you're doing is bad for you, bad for your soul. God doesn't like it. I don't hate you. And because of this capital, this money, the second most lucrative trade in the world is the sex trade. Certain places like Saudi Arabia, it's better to screw boys than girls. They have a trade in boys. So that's where the money is. The thing is, they're so driven by this powerful sexual desire that's not the norm, that's not met as easily as a dick and pussy type person. They'll pay a lot extra to get their freaks on. So on the internet, they were pioneers. Okay, if I don't want to go out and have someone see me buy a sex film, once you could see sex films on the internet, you didn't have to be humiliated to go to the certain few places to buy the stuff. You could see it at home. You don't have to travel. No one has to see it. You can hide in your basement and look at it. Why not put your credit card up there? Are you understanding me? The LGBTQ movement is a financial gold mine. Black people are associated with not having money, even if we have it. Gays are associated with having money. Gays get better housing opportunities. Gays pay more for housing. They pay more for everything. They pay a little gay tax, but then they get paid a little more money if they have the gay network. Are you understanding me? And by the way, do I think it's fair for people to be overcharged for being gay? No. I'm going to keep coming back to you. Keep coming back to you, telling you I actually care about people. When I talk to you about this stuff, when I think about the people I came up with that are dead, that are gone, that I cared about, if I could change some things in life, if I could have prevented my cousins or godbrothers from getting molested so I could have friends to roll out with, a lot of people I know are dead. So when I see people running around with all these flags and shit, it's like traumatic. It makes me want to beat someone up. You don't know what that shit's making me angry. I know folk who got hurt behind this, right? This isn't a heart full of hatred or burn up and kill. I'll never be in the crew of folks that say hate and kill people. I absolutely won't do that. I absolutely won't say treat and abuse folks. I won't. The only people I have an issue with are pedophiles. I can't work with that. So without further ado, I'm going to give you guys this awful photo. And yes, the title of the book, let me get the title of the book. And, or actually, I'll just show you. I'll just tell you, I'm trying to get about, I think it'll be about $40 I need to pull to get this book. I promise to share it. And if anybody knows how to work, I got the scanner now. I'm going to need some help. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get another one because I don't know what to do with this one. It should work. I'm going to have to call them and ask them, what am I doing wrong? But I want y'all to see this. This film is called Seed Money. And once you understand this, you're going to find out that the LGBTQ folks It's all about money and perversion, and they have plenty of money. The foundation of the gay money, why they had so much money to give to elections and so forth, is because of the porn industry. The porn industry is a gay industry, even if it has heterosexual people in it. Gays get paid more money than straight people do. Real talk. You get less money screwing a woman than if you screw a man. Woman gets more money if she screws a woman instead of a man. In other words, nobody wants to see man and woman, just regular dick and pussy. Nah, oh, that's so corny. Let's do something different. The Bible talks about people in this reprobate state of mind. You see it right here in America. Let me put this up in here. The film is called Seed Money. I bought it, and I'm glad I did. I just looked and they said they're asking $25 for this film. And when I want to prove something to somebody, I buy stuff. Let me hit this thing.
Candidacies and gayish.
I'm going to go back. Here we go. Naked sword. You know what that means.
Is there anything else I can get you?
I bought another ginger ale.
You sure you wouldn't like something a little stiffer?
I got something stiffer.
Oh, you're here already. I'd like to see what kind of workout this is going to be.
I was just getting warmed up.
Hi, Kurt. I'm home.
Pornography is a very important part of the gay culture, and Chuck was a very important part of pornography.
Chuck is the godfather of the gay movement.
He liberated many people, at least on a very basic primal level, to show that it was okay.
It's not
He
okay.
came from Indiana. He knew exactly what the story was. He understood what people wanted to see. He understood what they wanted to experience. He understood what middle America was missing. Dealing in the gay porno world, dealing with people, they have no concept of being suave and debonair. That's where Chuck Holmes was different. He seemed to have a class about him that nobody else did.
He was very concerned
Al Gore, y'all.
change for gay people and understood that he could play a unique role.
He felt that he had to give back or he would lose everything he had.
No one minded getting Chuck's money, but some of them minded where it came from. He's a pornographer. We don't want that porno dirty money.
I think of Chuck Holmes very much in the same way I look at Hugh Hefner. Someone who admired beauty and wanted to share that beauty with others.
In the beginning, Chuck Holmes was a great collector of porn. That's how it all started, 8mm loops. He was extremely closeted, and they would have these little parties, like a Tupperware party and a Holiday Inn hotel room. The customers would come, they would buy them directly while they were there. I was probably one of the first in the business. I was traveling the country, checking into hotels, meeting interested customers, and in one of my encounters back in Cincinnati, Ohio, I met Chuck. He said, "Oh, I want to get into that business. Oh, I'd love to get into that business." I said, "No, I don't think you really want to deal with the feds and postal inspectors and all the other shit." "Oh, I want to get into that business and I want to make movies." 6 or 7 months later, he moved out to San Francisco.
President's Day from me. Can't wait to see my latest boyfriend. Under the covers waiting to be free.
Chuck came out of the closet really fast. I don't think everybody ever said, like, come to San Francisco to come out. But it was quite obvious. And many, many people were uprooting and coming west and landing here. Sexually, it was on fire. I was coming from the Deep South, and I was just blown away by how comfortable people were, how inhibited they were about their sexuality.
I think San Francisco, when I came here, is gayer than it is today. South of Market, there was a bar called the Hungry Hole that was glory holes where you put your ass through. That's fairly radical.
We'd all come from very oppressed backgrounds. We went to San Francisco because we'd had it with the rest of America. We wanted to be free, we wanted to have sex, we wanted to be gay, we wanted to be queer, we wanted to take a lot of drugs and party. And porn was part of that. Porn is freedom.
The Supreme Court ruled today that if anyone wants to read dirty books or look at dirty movies in his own home, he may do so, and it's none of the law's business. The law still may regulate the spread of obscenity in public, but the court said a person has every right to satisfy his intellectual and emotional needs in the privacy of his own home, that the law has no business telling anyone alone at home what books he may read or what films he may look at.
Depending upon one's own moral posture, this film festival means either more tarnish on the city's growing reputation as the smut capital of America, or a major breakaway from inartistic pornography. It would be difficult for anyone to deny, however, that erotica, by whatever definition, has become a commercial as well as cultural phenomenon. Mike Lee, Eyewitness News, San Francisco.
I came to San Francisco in '72. I went to the BAR, which was relatively new, and I kind of admired the fact that a gay paper was being published. I walked in the door and said, I'm a writer. And the editor, Paul Lorch, said, what do you write? And I said, theater reviews with an emphasis on musical theater. And he said, I've got somebody writing those. Would you like to review porn? It was his idea that it was time to be legitimizing gay men's sexuality in its on-screen depictions.
The big innovation of the sexual revolution period was theatrical. In other words, in mainstream theaters, in movie theaters, or small storefront theaters. The other way, and this was more traditional and goes back to the beefcake photographers, there was a mail order business. And this was really the main way.
Mail order was selling directly through ads in magazines. They would send in cash many times because they were afraid to even have a record as far as a personal check paying for adult material.
Loops were the kind of short little scenes shown in peep shows. That was, in fact, the form that was used in mail order businesses.
It was a small little reel of film, not well focused and not well lit. Body hair was not manicured, dirty feet. They were just thrilled to get anything that was available out there. There just wasn't that much product.
They were definitely headache-inducing at all times because the camera work was bad, the lighting was worse, the editing was atrocious, and the soundtracks just were painful. You really had to want to see men having sex.
This is by some the gay technique called LIA, for legs in air, frequently meaning simply that an individual homosexual enjoys such activity. But where the name came from is clear.
Chuck didn't like dirty feet. That's why he got in the business. That's what he always told me. He says, I used to watch porn movies and see those goddamn models and they'd have dirty feet. I said, I gotta do it better. There's not gonna be a model with a dirty foot within 10 miles of a Falcon movie.
A lot of them get into their industry because of their sexual impulse, and they don't have much of a craft, of an impulse towards the craft of the medium they've chosen. Chuck seems to have had a natural proclivity, something in him. When he found himself a gay filmmaker, he wasn't a bad one at all.
Chuck started Falcon in 1970 out of his home. It probably just seemed like the business to get into in the early days. It was becoming legal. When you're the first or one of the first to do something, you can make money on it.
He had some friends who were in it, and he always said that I'm smarter than those guys are, and they seem to be making a good living, so I know I can do it.
Chuck and I were very close. At that time, I was not only shooting for myself, I was also shooting for Matt Sterling. We met, and he picked my brain. He talked me into shooting all the earlier films. We both put each other on payroll, started Falcon. Right after Chuck and I had met and started things, Vaughn came into the picture. He was the person who went out and recruited the mailing lists.
We were just walking, talking, and one day he said, what should we call the number? I said, I want a bird of prey. He said, eagle? I said, no. Then he said, falcon. I said, that's it. And that's the way we named it. It was like just spitting in the street. It wasn't no big deal. It was just 3 or 4 words and it was named. I said, well, I'm going to set you up, give you all the contacts. I want $5,000 and a little percentage or whatever. And we just started doing it.
This is when it starts. When Chuck gets that mailing list is when you can first start calling the adult erotic gay industry an industry.
Chuck was the business brain behind everything. He was the financial whiz. John Travis was the cameraman. He was the creative aspect of everything. He was the original pioneer. But Chuck knew how to capitalize off this.
Sex sells. It just blossomed overnight. We just shot whenever we wanted to. It was nothing planned or anything. We weren't making films so people say, oh, they're having good sex or they're showing how sex should be done. We were making it because we enjoyed it. We loved it. And that's what we like doing.
They're renegades, you know? They're out there just shooting sex. It's real guys having real sex. Right on the side of the road, in a boat. They're just going for it.
Back then, there were like 7 models. And every once in a while, you'd find that 8th model walking on Santa Monica Boulevard. And they kind of all would swoop.
They'd have another business and they would kind of attract models. Like Vaughn had a company called Rugby, and it was a really slick little clothing store in Castro. They printed a really nice catalog. They take photographs of these guys. Dick Fisk comes to mind. But it was always like, well, we have this other business too that you could make some more money.
I just went out the streets and picked them up in bars and cable cars and walking and baseball fields. I just went out and picked them up. Once you pick up a guy, you never know what's going to happen. Is it going to be sex or is it going to be no? Most time it was yes. And of course, the ones that wanted, I put them into Falcon.
Falcon consistently looked for better and better models, and they always used beautiful locations and outdoor scenes. It was the consistency that the customers knew if they were buying that brand, they were going to receive a wonderful product. It was a new era, and Chuck really helped create that.
Chuck Holmes may have had the largest sense of scope in the way in which he wanted his product to get out nationally.
He was very smart at marketing. He knew what he liked. He knew what sold. He knew to continually build up his mail order list and the name Falcon.
Chuck was so competitive, he could move with lightning speed. He could have an idea, he could have it laid out in 2 days, and he'd print it overnight, he'd be in the mail, while his other friends were still thinking about it.
Chuck was mass production machinery. He wanted to make them and get them done. Boom, 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 boom. Get them out there on the marketplace.
Chuck, in his early career, was able to attain success because he was able to deliver in the brown paper wrapper the films, the magazines that gay America wanted to see in a form that they could actually accept it. It was sensual, it was sexy, it was not smutty, it was not low life, and it was at the right place at the right time.
Chuck Holmes and Falcon Studio translated the sexual life of gay men in the large cities into a kind of historical record.
They were very post-Stonewall. They were reflecting new gay freedoms. The explosion of our lives and our visibility on the streets, in the world, in bars that no longer had their windows painted black, and the movies quickly reflected this. The clone look, the lumberjack look, jeans, flannel shirts, mustaches, facial hair. It was the hippie look filtered through a notched up masculinity.
We had a rich lexicon of our culture, of the way we lived and what we wore and what we thought about and how we dressed and talked. And filmmakers could put that out, and kind of recreate or document our culture.
The porn stars are really heroes. At a time where it was necessarily not easy to be gay and not easy to be out. Not only were they like gay and out, but they were like really like putting it out on the table. They were kind of going the extra mile for all of us.
Pornography was still technically considered a kind of prostitution. It was sex for money. Anybody who made pornography at this point in time had not only to worry about being arrested under prostitution laws, but still had to worry about obscenity, vice squads. It was a dangerous occupation.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court authorized wider restrictions on the exhibition and sale of obscenity. Today, a nationwide crackdown was underway.
The explicit portrayal of sex activity has become a big, very profitable business. The Vice Squad goes after it all.
We have to understand is it was extremely risky. I mean, people got busted for selling porn interstate and went to jail. They all hid, they all had noms to porn. At the first hint of a bust or of any legal issue, they'd all pick up their TPs and run.
The entire industry was anonymous. Neither the performers nor filmmakers were credited or wanted to be known.
You had to be very careful. No one knew where they were going to shoot that day until they were going there. It was a secret. It was like the McCarthy hearing for making sex films.
They were after Chuck Holmes for a long time because he was noted for fisting movies.
He was indicted along with Matt Sterling. The trial was actually in Texas. What Chuck says is that they showed, I believe it was an interracial scene. The prosecutor said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this could be your son." And one of the women in the jury box threw up. Chuck hired Michael Kennedy and Tom Steele. These are people who defended the Chicago 7. They went to the judge in Chambers and said, "Judge, we feel like we're not getting a fair trial." And the judge said, fair trial, Michael. Hell, not too many years ago, we would have taken those old boys out behind the courthouse and hung them." That's what the legal climate was like. Chuck delayed it, and he had it moved finally to San Francisco. Matt Sterling, who wouldn't spend the money, went to prison. Chuck was lucky. but it was also smart.
I decided to discontinue shooting for myself because I just didn't want to deal with the entanglement of the feds and postal inspectors. I let Chuck take the brunt.
People said, look, I'm tired. He would be a buyer and buy these rights out. You know, some people, it's like a card game. People folded. Yeah, I'll buy you out.
One reason why Chuck Holmes thrived the way he did was that he was able to avoid going to jail in a way that some of the other directors were not able to do. He basically built on that and acquired their materials.
Chuck loved to go skiing, and it would cost a lot of money. So one year he said, let's just shoot a couple of scenes so we can write it off.
On the other side of Aspen, he was extremely involved. He'd want to get everybody outfitted. A lot of my ski clothing is in that original movie. And in those days, they probably had sex at night, I would imagine. Either as a group or in groups.
They wanted to pull together 3 of the leading performers of each generation. The generations were very short at this point in time, of the gay porn performers. They had Casey Donovan, who was the very first famous gay porn star. They had Al Parker from the 2nd generation, and then Dick Fisk from the 3rd generation.
He shot a few scenes and he brought it back. And he showed it to Matt Sterling and showed it to me. And we said, we can make this into something. I said, well, do we need an opening scene? Matt Sterling wrote the whole thing and it just blew him away.
Well, there you are.
Hi, how are you? Been running.
Wow, you're really sweating.
Yeah, a lot.
You have a good time?
Yeah, I had a great time. Been thinking about this little trip I took to Aspen.
At that point, they realized that they had something a little different than they had intended. And it was really almost a feature movie. Once Chuck Holmes realized this, he decided he was going to market it that way. And it sent out a brochure, asked for the people on his mailing list to mail in reservations. It was such a huge success that everyone decided to imitate that. It even was more important than anyone realized at the time, because once the video revolution occurred, what you sent home was not a clip. You sent out a movie with 4 scenes. It produced the biggest success of his career.
Falcon Video Pack number 3. When young businessman Craig Rand realizes that the cabbie who picked him up at the airport is the incredible Al Parker, he gives in to the bearded stud's blatant come on. Along a deserted country roadside, the 2 men get naked and nasty together. Even Parker's impressed when Ryan fucks himself with his own thick cock.
It almost happened overnight that all of a sudden video was the big thing. Everybody was buying machines, everybody was getting tapes, people were sharing tapes, and film just faded out.
Everything that was on 8mm got transferred over, so we kept getting additional sales without having to manufacture anything new.
I was getting like FedEx packages every Monday morning, like stuffed with pounds of cash. I couldn't believe how much money there was. I mean, it was wild. We had advance checks here and advance checks there. Chuck certainly took advantage of that, man. He was on the edge of that.
Before you even finish making your movie, you would have 10,000 units sold at $35 a pop. Falcon was noted for having more than that, and his mail order was so incredible and vast, he'd make a fortune any movie he made.
He didn't hit the door in a hotel or on a cruise ship that he wasn't handing out $100 bills to the help. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody. They knew he was coming. Hello, Mr. Holmes. One of the first things you did when you got with Chuck is you got a Rolex. Okay. And Chuck gave me 2 Rolexes, a Tiffany watch, a lot of jewelry over the years. he started to refashion you in his image. I had a Rolls Royce that towed us to and from the clubs at night, and another one to bring other boys home or to follow us shopping. He told me, I'm going to spoil you so rotten that no one else will ever have you. And I was like, bring it.
I had a lot of famous friends. I introduced him to Chuck. He really got a lot of kick out of it. Steve Rebell of 54, David Geffen, Halston. I took him to Halston's house. He got so much joy out of that type of stuff. Chuck wanted a new way of life. He wanted to be a big shot.
You take a look at the Falcon models of 1980, 81, they're all picture perfect. Falcon had the most beautiful models there were. They wanted the most perfectly beautiful faces with the most beautiful bodies and the biggest dicks possible, and they wanted them to do everything. And then some.
Long ride, you guys. Did you check that pothole? I about busted my nuts coming over that. Well, I think we should go inside and get on with this initiation. Okay? All right. Yeah, let's go.
If you really go back to the first 8mm loops, they're all hairy and with mustaches. In the 70s, that was the image that reflected masculinity. I believe the story was Calvin Klein came out with his famous billboard, underwear billboard, I believe in 1979 or 1980. And they were friends. And that whole image changed. It went from machismo to clean cut.
Calvin Klein has sent me a box of underwear, 100 pair of Calvin Klein underwear. And I like the way the guys look at them. And I started using them. It was not planned. It was just something I liked the way it looked visually.
Chuck was not a creative person at all. He was a business person. What Vaughn brought was the sheets and the art and the pictures and the orchids.
Coon.
Vaughn could sell it. And when you talk to Vaughn, he's like, oh, girl, just imagine white, crisp linens on tan skin. Ooh, girl. He'd tell to Chuck, and Chuck could almost hypnotize Chuck with it, you know? Ooh, girl, yeah, okay, do it. He convinced him to spend the money for it.
I picked the guys and I take the clothes, cut their hair, plucked their eyebrows and shaved them, scrubbed their feet and bleached them so they had nice white feet, tanned them up and oiled them down. And then Matt Sterling saw it. He said, you know, this is going to change the way we shoot film.
The thing I remember about Chuck and his productions was he was really methodical about manufacturing the fantasy. And the guys had to be a certain kind of guy. They were always very white and very muscular and very tanned.
Right at this time, the formula is gelling. Beautiful people and beautiful surrounding. The models are getting more attractive, and there's some money rolling in where we can spend a little more money on the productions. They were all just beautiful people. The boy next door, there was no dog meat.
He is the first producer that wanted to depict good, clean, all-American fun. Collegiate-looking guys, brand new socks, pure white underwear. It was a new look that kind of brought the industry above ground and made it clean and fun and wholesome almost.
I think they were the first one ever that you knew that that was a class act, if you can say anything's a class act in pornography.
The standards of everybody's movie were based on Falcon movies.
Well, you know it takes a lot to win. Long hard nights and at the gym. We're on the way with a winning streak. Working hard, gonna reach our peak. Can't stop now. Can't slow down. When the spring train look out. We got the will to win. We're in spring training now. Hey, thank Phil for introducing me to Kathy last night. Man, she was a real hot piece of ass.
Over half the guys in Phil's office have been trying to get it on with her.
I know she's hot for my dick.
I could understand why. I was just on my way into the sauna before you came over. Why don't you join me? You'd feel a hell of a lot better afterwards.
What the fuck? Why not? All right.
Falcon was just a reflection of Chuck. His fetishes, his likes and dislikes with guys, how he wanted gay to be portrayed in his movies. Falcon was really just right out of Chuck's brain. It was Chuck.
He was very uber about masculinity and about boys and about men and about keeping things male.
He struggled with his being gay. Not so much being gay or saying I'm gay, but having a presence that was flamboyant beyond being appropriate. He never wore tore-off jeans. He never wore anything that would give away, the sexuality.
You really do have a hot body. Thanks. I try to keep it that way. Have you ever had a blowjob before? A few chicks have done it before. It really turns me on. Have you ever had a guy blow you? No. Have you? Well, maybe. A few times. Could I give you a blowjob? Sure. Why not?
The image of that masculine, basic, plain, athletic man was purposely created to combat the image that society had of gay men in the 60s and the early 70s. He was taking that fringe element and dressing it up and cutting its hair and teaching it to speak well so that the general population would overlook the gayness and pay attention to the person to assimilate easier.
They would get them out of the Midwest. They would go to great expense, do model searches through people all over the United States, the smaller the town, wherever. Fly them in, build them up.
Falcon would put them through the car wash. Well, the idea being that you take somebody and you beautify them, and they work out and they're toning their body and the makeup. But before you're done, you've got the perfect car wash Falcon star. Seemed like in a lot of cases they all looked alike.
Kevin Williams, Kurt Marshall, that was the iconic look of Falcon. That was the Falcon look. Everybody was looking for the next beautiful blonde.
Hello? Hey, Brian. Yeah, how's it going? What's going on? Hey, how about coming over to party?
Hey, my buddy Kurt's here with me. You've never met him before, but he's real hot. You'll like him for sure. Anyhow, we'll be right over. Bye.
They would strip all the color out of my hair and then just add a beige toner to it. So it would basically be stripped to white, and then we would just add a shade of ash to my hair. And it was different versions of that flipped off to the side, so it looked like I had this big mop.
I had to remain shaved. And even though I make 2 or 3 movies a year, I had to be shaven down every day. And in San Francisco, you try to get a date with no hair on your body.
They had this very lockstep, lockdown concept of what masculinity is, how it should be portrayed, and how it should be packaged, for poor Joe in Iowa that's going to pay $69 for a VHS.
If I would bring in a fabulous black model, a black model couldn't be just in the cast. There had to be a reason for the black model to be in the cast. The black guys were never to get fucked. And the white boys were to never lick the black guy's ass. That's what he wanted.
Hey, hello. What brings you over here? I really thought we can kind of see. What do you mean? Fuck my wife.
How does that depiction of sexuality reflect gay men? What does it say about us? What does it say about the filmmaker?
I'm gonna fuck that lily white ass. Hey, come on, man, don't hurt me.
This is a really personal medium. They were filming their sexual fantasies, filtered through what they thought the little old man in Peoria wanted to be seeing.
What set Falcon apart was that very clean, squeaky clean college student image. That squeaky clean kid becomes piggy when the doors close. And it's that juxtaposition that made Falcon work.
Chuck didn't care about anything it says. He didn't want to see kissing. God damn it, you're kissing too much. Make him fuck that hole and I want to see it open up. God damn it, they're talking too much. Who cares about the goddamn seagulls and the fucking beach and the water? God damn it. This is bullshit.
Little whoop-de-woo, and get to right to the action, because Falcon was very anal-oriented. Finger that butt, slap that butt, a lot of fucking. Chuck would love it if on film we can get some dildos going. Like someone started talking about these artistic couples, and he said, no, they gotta look like aliens. Plunging. And he was just, ooh, honey. Ooh. He loved it.
Chuck always said to me, he goes, it'll stretch a mile for it tears an inch. Believe me.
Chuck's surgeons would come to me and they'd say, what's wrong with him? He must have some psychological problem. He must have something going on with him that's really wrong. I looked at myself and I looked at Chuck and I said, there's nothing wrong with him. This guy's normal. He's got wishes and dreams and aspirations and all kinds of ideas that don't fall into the box.
Having sex was a political statement because we were allowing ourselves the privilege of having sex unfettered by straight people's expectations of our sexuality.
Chuck breathed a lot of energy into his relationships. When Chuck fell in love with someone, it was 110%. As generous as he was, he wasn't willing to allow the men in his lives a lot of room to express themselves. I had a complicated relationship with Chuck. He was like my lover, brother, father, buddy. It was always extremely complicated. Everybody knows Chuck is an extremely sober individual and who would campaign against alcohol. You know, he didn't like drinking at all, much less drug use. But the truth of the matter is Chuck had quite a sexing and drug episode in his life that I had engaged in with him, and it amplified itself. And so there were a few years there that I didn't see him all the time.
I'm having a wild party in my condo at the Aspen Club. Why don't you come on over? Sounds pretty good.
Hey, you guys, you won't believe this hot guy I ran into on the slopes this afternoon. I literally ran into him. He's back in the back room. He wants to come up. He's wearing a mask. You guys won't mind. It's my friend. Hey, Kurt. Hey, everybody. Hey, guys. Hey, how are you?
Every weekend, they would have a sex party. I mean, every weekend. And it would last until Monday. So I had to come drag him out of bed on Monday morning to go to work. Chuck was lucky if he could bounce a check. He would spend all the money he had coming in Falcon, chasing boys and going to New York, and drugs. He spent up all the money, didn't have anything left. He had to make payroll, had to pay the rent, didn't have to make a new film, there was no money.
Falcon was in disarray. They had orders that were 6 months old. And at this time, they were only making 2 or 3 movies a year.
I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just too much. It was not going anywhere. And everything was just going deeper. So I left.
When I saw Chuck in the mid 80s, 84, 85, was I could tell that, by his general appearance, that he was not too well.
We left this meeting, we went out to the car, and we got in his Porsche, and he said to me, he started crying. They had diagnosed him with KS. He had KS on his ankle. That's when I first became aware about his HIV status. I'm sure he was positive long before that. It was the first time that I had ever seen him frightened, because he wasn't that kind of person, but also that I really became aware that he was, fallible, that he wasn't just a superhero.
I come from a generation that had a lot of sex in very casual and free ways all over the town, all the time. Having to switch rapidly to a sex life that was prescribed in any way was difficult. We were used to being very freewheeling. That was part of who we were. That was part of our statement of identity. So it was hard to put the brakes on.
You could have heard a pin drop down the Castro. Everyone pretended that they were never found, bottom up.
Please pardon me, that person will definitely vanish, drop off, go away, go away, go away.
On Dory Alley or any other seedy location. People fled for the closets. They ran back into the closet. They ran back into straight relationships. Everybody abandoned being out in public. This is how I saw it.
I think that when AIDS happened, it was devastating to this business. I think it scared the shit out of everybody when we found out how it was being produced. And of course, when we then found out all of our actors were dying, I think it changed the industry a lot. Some people went out of business, I think, because of that. It pretty well got me why I didn't want to be in the business anymore. I didn't want to take somebody else's life.
Oh man, it was just a very scary time. And here I am, still groveling down below with the camera and stuff dribbling on me. It's like
Chuck would never speak to it like what was going on in our community in a general sort of way. He would do it very quietly. But if you got him on an incident, like that poor guy, whatever, Chuck would break down and cry. But he had kind of a rigid front around it otherwise. He used Onoxinol 9, that spermicidal thing, and
And he would have all these notices, precautions have been taken that maybe you don't see. And occasionally in some of the movies, you'd see it. You'd see somebody squirt something in. And in fact, many people would always say, what was that? They think it was a bump or something, a booty bump.
They were doing everything but using condoms. They were dancing around that issue by squirting non-oxidal 9 up the boys' butts.
He could recite a lot of studies. It's 99% effective, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out years later it wasn't. Okay, because what it did, it was it irritated or inflamed, the lining, and it could actually contribute to conversion.
I would talk to Chuck and I would say, you need to use condoms, Chuck. You have to use condoms.
I remember that was one of the big bones of contention with Falcon, was that they were sort of the last ones to come on board with using a condom.
The feeling was that the consumer wouldn't buy a product that depicted condoms. It was performers, actually, who kind of insisted on it, but there was great resistance. Yes, there was among the populace.
I would hope that he would look around and say, I can't promote this. I can't, contribute to people looking at my movies and thinking it's okay to not use condoms. I did not let up.
This was very serious. It was a health crisis, so we talked about it all the time. And I think the only time you really wouldn't talk about it, but when people started showing up very thin, and I just said, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with this. I just can't do this anymore, and I don't feel comfortable doing it anymore.
I had to argue with him about it. He said, we can't go to condoms. We go to condoms. We're going to go out of business. People aren't going to buy it. I just couldn't convince him. So I knew what would do it, because Chuck, for all his being the grand wizard, was also a coward. And I told him, I said, you know what, honey? I said, ACT UP's going to come down here. And you're going to come to work one day, and ACT UP's going to be standing outside that door. And you're going to get called out on this. And at that point, he decided we could start using condoms.
Coming through this AIDS epidemic, I think a lot of people were afraid to have sex, even safer sex, and porn was one of their only sexual outlets.
You'd be amazed at the amount of people that have come to me like, wow, you saved my life. I think porn was a safety mechanism.
Business was growing. I told Chuck, I said, we need to get people in here full time. We need to get serious about this and stop being weekend porno hobbyists. I had brought professional filmmaking people, young kids who really had something to prove. We really had ideas.
I was Steven's assistant. Steven and I were very close. He was like my big brother. And we literally had every day ideas of scripts. I was constantly involved his every day. And I think Steven wanted me very close so we could produce together.
We added lines, the Mustang line, the Jocks line, the Falcon International line, a novelty line.
The duplication lab ran around the clock, 24 hours a day. Hundreds of titles were duplicating in just one day.
It was at a time where people were watching more porn. We were making movies like a production line. We were just into distribution, nationally and internationally. It was exploding. We'd have $40,000 days.
Chuck loved the gay porn world. He loved being the jefe of the porn world.
I think he made a complete turnaround of his life. He had gotten sober and very serious about it, watching his weight, health conscious.
He was the kind of image you would look up to. You could tell he was a very successful man. He carried himself well. He was real confident. He had whatever he wanted. I mean, he owned Falcon.
Incredibly lucky. I started in this business sort of accidentally in 1972, as did
my friend Jack Defoe, better known as Ben Sterling, and John Travis down there, with just old Jim Hodges and me. Some of us go way back to the days that Peter and John were recording the snakes and reptiles on the earth. But be that as it may, we're all lucky to be here. Some of the best have gone on. I think we've got a few more licks in us, and I want to thank you. Thank you.
He taught me so much about what to be and what not to be. You know, he was a very lonely person, very lonely and not satisfied. Early on, I thought money brought satisfaction. Chuck taught me that. That's not the case. He lived on the hill, and he had all the money, and he was not a happy person. We would travel on planes or go places, and people would say, "What do you do?" Videotape replication. And for most people, that would be like, "Okay, great. Anyway, it's nice out, isn't it?" You know, they would keep him off track. And I would always question, like, what is videotape replication? What is that? It's making tapes. Well, yeah, but what kind of tapes? You know, if someone's going to ask you, well, they haven't yet, Mary, so quiet. He was never really comfortable with what he chose as his career.
You had to test the water before you told somebody what you were doing. You know, it wasn't completely open. He used to tell his society friends, I'm in the mail order business, and they'd say, what? And he'd say, well, I sell, you know, tchotchkes and things like that. So people around town used to call him Crystal Holmes because he sold crystals and things like that. They don't laugh. They all knew what he did.
I don't know if Chuck was proud to be a pornographer. I don't think he was embarrassed by it. It certainly afforded him a lucrative lifestyle. I don't think that he ever felt accepted by society because of society's negative feelings towards the porn industry.
He would come through the main entrance and all the offices were lined up. It was like an ice storm came through because each person would be like doing something personal, and then as soon as they saw him, oh, hello, Mr. Holmes.
He really, really cared about everybody that worked for him, even though he was a tyrant at the office and people were afraid of him. He would storm around that office. If he was in a bad mood and he came into that office, a paper clip on the floor could send him into a flying rage of monumental proportions that shook the ground that office was on.
Guards, help. Oh no. Ow! No!
He had that type A personality, and he never felt like he achieved enough.
We'd gone to see Eva Peron's tomb. Chuck came home and she's going to build a mausoleum. Chuck Holmes is going to build a mausoleum for himself. And I said, why? Who's going to come see it? I said, it's so, and we had this discussion. He used to say, oh, I'm going to build, green marble and you know, I'd say, no one's going to come to see it. I said, you're going to be dead and gone. I said, except for a handful of us. I said, we don't have kids. He turned the corner later on and realized that he could donate money and that would give him a living legacy. It was very important to him that people remember him. He got involved in politics first and foremost because he needed to protect his business. He was really politically motivated around, we couldn't have these goddamn Republicans in office because I'm going to go to jail. I think I saw everything change, and I think it changed for many of us was the promise of Bill Clinton becoming president. We needed a president who would speak about AIDS, who would say the word AIDS, who would maybe come to our defense and perhaps our rescue. That's when I saw him really begin to contribute heavily. He really was very, very shy about getting into it. When he met Vincent Freya and Aisha Kenmore and a couple other people, they encouraged him to say, your money's as good as anybody else's here, and we need you. You're a good leader. You're a good organizer. You can talk people into things that nobody else could talk them into. You can get people on board. We need you. And when he finally got that message, oh my God, it was on. Because he had self-doubt around it. I think that he was always frightened by that someone was going to return his check.
I'm Chuck Holmes. I'm from San Francisco, and I'm glad to be here in Washington. This is the first time I've ever marched for a cause in my life. I waited a long time, 48 years almost, and I'm here, and I'm glad to be here. The spirit's very high. Everyone's very motivated, and yet very civilized. I know there's people that's not rowdy. It's very safe. We're just glad to be here. I hope America wakes up and gets our message.
He was part of an emerging, very elite, successful group of gays that had taken it upon themselves to really immerse themselves in politics and use their power and wherewithal to advance gay candidacies and gay issues.
He was one of those guys that just melted into the crowd, took everyone in, made them feel welcome. He could sit next to anyone and have a conversation about anything. And really what he did was never really the subject of the conversation.
Chuck and I met in a very particular and singular capacity. I as a volunteer fundraiser, he as a very generous donor. Chuck's name was at the top of the list of donors, and so it was my job to, of course, get to know who this individual was and make him my friend, so I could continue to encourage his significant contribution to the Human Rights Campaign.
Chuck, how do you feel about this weekend?
I'm very excited about the weekend. It's a big part in our movement for equal rights for gays and lesbians. And I expect that 1 million people hopefully will turn the tide for the country, or begin to turn the tide in a big way.
You're a big supporter of the Human Rights Campaign Fund?
I do the best I can.
And who are your friends?
This is Steve Schellenbarger, co-chair of the board of directors of the Human Rights Campaign Fund. Melinda Cuthbert is the board of governors of the Human Rights Campaign Fund, and Tim McFeely, our executive director.
The depth of his generosity made him a significant player. Chuck was a strategic thinker, certainly had an opinion, always had an opinion, and was very welcome as a board member of the board of directors.
Chuck had the reaches to get to the David Geffens of the world, the Jim Hormels of the world. He would pick up the phone and say, hey, Jim, it's Mary. And that was, Chuck's favorite thing. And, he'd get $100,000 out of him like that.
Chuck was a full service activist. He loved to go out and be the great Gatsby and have a good time and hit the town and go to countless parties. He at the very same time was working and being focused. And he understood the power he had, and he wanted to apply it in a concentrated way for as long as he could, that his talents and wherewithal would allow him.
I would watch him at these events. I'd hear people like Angela Alioto, people who were running that year. You gotta meet him, he's money, he's got money. Shake his hand, meet him. I'm like, God, crazy? It's like, and Chuck lived off that. He had made it. It fortified whatever negative impression people would ever think about his business. A lot of the people that were his close friends who were big in the political arena were his good friends. He loved them a lot and they loved him back. But there were a lot of other people who were just hangers on.
A lot of the people at the Human Rights Campaign and other organizations he belonged to thought of him as just a person in porn who made a lot of money. And I think Chuck always knew that part of the reason these people enjoined him was partially the money.
There wasn't so much an issue with HRC and taking money from Chuck. Where a lot of the issues came in were in the candidates that we gave money to. So some candidates chose not to accept funds knowing that they were coming from Chuck Holmes because of his relationship to the gay pornography industry. One of the first openly lesbian candidates to run for Congress was Tammy Baldwin. And I remember a bunch of us in San Francisco putting together and hosting an event for her, and his check wasn't accepted. I mean, it was later given back.
A few words about this tremendous victory that's happening all across this country tonight. Our community was there. This is the first time in history that any presidential candidate asked for our support openly. They've always wanted our money. They preferred it to pass sort of secretly, but Bill Clinton was proud to have our support. Some of the most prominent people in our community were there with Bill Clinton. President-elect Bill Clinton, excuse me.
He gave major donating level to see Clinton before he was elected, and they wouldn't allow him in because of what he does for a living. And that crushed him. I mean, that really, I remember he came home from that trip and all he got was a little glass thing. You know, he goes, well, all I gave was a fucking glass trinket. I couldn't even see the goddamn president.
I knew that some prune-faced people might have thought twice about wanting to connect up with Chuck, but it was so full of hypocrisy because everyone had always been very happy to enjoy his hospitality, and of course Chuck ran a legal, legitimate business. You know, the community slowly has gotten over its own homophobia, perhaps.
This was 1998 gag reel. This is one of the few shots where you get to see the old man's been let out of the barn one more time. That's the part. Now, I don't want to tell them that you made my house into a mushroom growing ground where they just keep you in the dark and feed me shit, but that's the truth.
Chuck worked. He was a workaholic. He worked all the time. He'd say, I'm Ram Tough. I'm the original Ram Tough model, and they broke the mold after I came along. And it was true in many ways. He was not sickly. Now, this is somebody who had early on a lot of health issues. He was diabetic. He had high blood pressure and HIV. He had a liver that, in the end, is what failed him.
A lot of the early HIV therapies were very, very toxic and had the possibility and probability of liver disease. I think he was run from pillar to post with all the magical therapies. His anxiety and his basic personality forced him to go to that leading edge, if you will. People with liver disease tend to ride along for a while and then just plummet.
He had chronic hiccups all day, all night. And the only way to stop them was to inhale anal nitrate. You're talking about a 6'3", 6'4" man, very lithe and lanky, now having a very tight belly just from distension, not from fat, and walking around hiccuping all day.
They wanted to remove the spleen, which would stop the hiccups. And I remember the day he went in for the operation, the doctors came in and they said, we are not going to do this operation. He will not survive. He will not come off the table. You're in no condition. Stop everything, go home.
We used to call him Mayor because it was French for Mary. You know, and he used to say, I'm the old gray mare. It was a term of endearment. So if we really wanted to say, oh, Mayor, that's how we talked to him. And it just made him kind of misty-eyed when we called him Mayor. When he was passing away, those last few weeks and he was in the hospital, I got to tell him several times, I said, you know, Mary, we fought hard over all these years for a lot of things. And I have to tell you now that I've been in business for myself, is that you were usually right. And he was.
It's strange how people die. I got a call from his houseboy. He was very ill. Said Chuck was expecting a visitor, Stan, his distributor. He got up, that morning, got dressed. He started feeling a little tired, so he said he would lay down.
I remember this long, dark hallway to Chuck's room. The door was closed, and that's rare. And I thought, this is weird. So I opened the door, and as I opened the door, I see all these people in a V facing him in his bed. And he was in black sheets, pale white. And as I walked through the door, he goes, one breath. I'm not kidding you. It was one breath. And I see all the blood drain out of his face. He's dead. I hold his hand, and I sat there, and I just said to him, I said, Chuck, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for me. And I just love you so much. And I was looking up, thinking that when you see on TV that people float up when they die and look down, that he might be looking down at me. And that was when this little bitch came out of the bathroom, was hiding out in the bathroom, who wanted to hear my conversation. And I was like one of the money hangers, like one of these people who was there just hanging on for his wealth. Like he probably got all the cats and the dowry and then gave the cats back because he got the money and ran. All these people were just sucking him. And so that was it. And then I walked out of the bedroom and I walked in the living room and everyone's talking about the paintings and where they're going and what they're doing and who's going to get this, who's going to get that. And I'm like, whoa, you fucking assholes. He's not even fucking cold. And you guys are all fucking dividing everything up. Falcon was a glass castle. It was not a reality. After he died, the glass castle shattered and all the air from the world came in.
He was incredibly secure, and he was as secure as he was vulnerable. He was filled with enormous self-love and with enormous self-loathing. He forgave immediately, and he carried a grudge forever. He wanted to control everything, and he knew he had no control. And he always doubted, let's say that he knew he was a success, but he kept waiting for someone to come and tap him on the shoulder and say, no, it wasn't meant to be you. You weren't supposed to be the success. Out. You're the imposter.
I read the headline in the January 31st issue, Center to be named after Falcon Studio founder, and I was filled with disgust. It is no wonder that right-wing advocates and the Christian movement consistently criticize and damn the GLBT community when by this action, it justifies their claim that we are all about sex. So he contributed $1 million toward the center. Big deal. I, for one, will not contribute another dime.
There were some people who thought Chuck Holmes was buying respectability, but you'll always have those prudes who can't face up to the fact that people have sex and didn't think that a person who made his fortune in the sex industry should have his name put on a public building. I think it's good that the Chuck Holmes name is attached to the business and that people have to confront whenever it comes up that money and the honor being given to him is going to a person who is involved in gay men's sexuality. That's good.
Just think of the numberless people that will walk in the building or have already and will in the future. And I think it's important to create more than a Wikipedia paragraph, perhaps.
What we brought, and what this business continues to bring, is a gay connection to people who lead private gay lives or closeted lives out in the Midwest, people who have families or for whatever their circumstances are. I got a letter from an elderly woman. She said, please take my husband's name off your mailing list. And I thought, now I'm going to get it. And she said, I'd like to thank you for all the years of enjoyment that you have brought my husband. He was on your mailing list for 10 years and bought all your movies. He 2 years ago moved to the nursing home, took all his movies with him. This is a woman who had nothing in common with us, no investment to be kind, but she will so love your husband, despite something she couldn't understand. she was gracious in the end. That was a wonderful moment for me, and I thought, we reach more people like this than we know.
The one thing none of us should ever forget is this. The image of that young man go in search of strength and dignity and self-esteem. And because of his own life, Chuck never ever forgot the need for each and every one of us to do all things to make a better life in this country and in this city for young gay and lesbian people. And I think what we all know in this room today is that a young gay person could do very well to grow up to be Chuck Holmes.
Okay, guys. That's the end of our lesson for today, although we'll talk for a few. Did you see any concern for any issues with Black people? Did you see intersectionality? Did you see any concern about civil rights or justice for Black people? Was there any concern for poor or needy people? Or was it just about white guys getting their freak on? And these rich, super powerful white gay men, what Black people for, other than to be slaves for their own pleasure? What does the Holy Scripture and everything else say about this? Why are we wrapped up under this? Is this what we're fighting for? They didn't want Black people. They are the biggest, and thank God, separatist of all. They don't want us around them, and we shouldn't want to be around them. Why are we looped up under them? Says John Lewis and Elisha Cummings and Maxine Waters and all the other people. They hide behind civil rights and human rights. These folks have what they want. Money, fame, access, housing, clothes. And if you saw a little Black gay dude, notice that they didn't. He worshiped white men. Everything is about white maleness. It's a worship of sex, whiteness. And that's what LGBTQ is all about. And all these other people talking about civil rights and dignity, from what I can see, it seems to be gratuitous sex and debauchery and doing whatever you want. Sex, drugs, good time, money, life and power. Discrimination, relatively speaking. You can be Black and shot dead doing your job, doing what you're supposed to do. And folk out here airbrushing an abomination and making it look nice and pretty. And your Boule, your civil rights groups, your Black church, and everything else is up under these folks. It's 12:31. What's in it for us? Are there reparations, tangibles, cops going to jail for killing us, safe drinking water, home loans? Notice all of what they have and the origin, the funding of the Human Rights Campaign. You saw Obama and all these people talking to HRC comes out of this sodomite, porn, sex, craziness. It's a business. It's about money. When those white guys who were doing tricks in the films for them, did they go to condoms to save their own blonde, blue-eyed guys? No. It's not about human rights. It's not about fairness. It's not about compassion. It's about greed. It's about lasciviousness. It's about lust. Romans 1:18-32 or 31. I'm sorry, I may add a verse. It's true. It's true. It's true. All of you folks don't like organized religion of the Bible. Up yours. The Bible's right. In their words, not mine. Not my words. If you actually like an anthropologist that's go in, listen, observe, take notes. You have to disagree. And our pork chop feminists, our angry, loud, fat-mouthed black women that run after the white feminist lesbians, they brought all this into our community. And we have to be united with these folks, or else what Stacey Abrams is pushing, what Andrew Gillum is pushing, what Maxine Waters is pushing, what Ben Jealous and Reverend William Barbecue and others tell us that that's us. We have to be united with that for strength. We are incapable as Black people, Black American foundational B1 ADOS Americans. We can't come together and do anything unless we're up under Mr. Chuck Holmes and crew. I don't agree. I'm not even saying Chuck Holmes and them can't do what they want to do. But why are we voting in Georgia for Raphael Warnock? Why is everything abortion, gay, illegal, undocumented, and nothing for us? We're not reproducing as a people. We're being destroyed. All of the AIDS money in the cities and all this stuff is primarily helping white homosexuals. The young, stupid, impressionable Black folk, they die young, they die early, they get disease, they get ruined. We can go against the Most High, or we and die, or we can go with the Most High. And of course, you inevitably die, but you go to eternal rest. We Black folk are going to have to go back to asking, where do we want to spend eternity? There is a hell, and I can assure you, right now, the majority of Black folks are going to bust it open. And my question is, why would anyone live as a nigger, second-class citizen, hated and reviled by practically everyone, and then spend eternity in hell with the people that treated you this way? You have to be satanic and Luciferian to accept such a deal, to play such a stupid game with your soul. Mr. Holmes and others, to complete their lives, to be more whole, have a lock on the children that are Black in child and family services across the country. These people, the same ones funding the changing of the laws around pedophilia and prostitution and all of it. I'm just going to say to you, there's a way that seems right to a man, that way is destruction. Black folk need to rediscover God. It was good enough for Harriet Tubman. All of y'all scream about these people, and Nat Turner and Frederick Douglass. They were all Bible-believing Christians. All the folks. It's interesting how stupid we are. The people we look up to are doing one thing, and we elect to do something stupid that they weren't doing. It's stupid. Frederick Douglass didn't wear an ankh. Neither did Harriet Tubman. Neither did Nat Turner or Denmark Vesey or Box Lee or Ida B. Wells or William Monroe Trotter. Go and look up them. Look up all their lives. They would want nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. And in fact, when I do get back with y'all tomorrow, I'm going to do some book stuff. It's going to be a little dry because I'll be doing a lot of reading. But while the holiday is here, put as much of this stuff out as possible. So tell people about this channel. I'm sorry about the having to see people's hind parts and so forth. I've seen some of it maybe once or twice, but I bought it to show other people, to shock you. And maybe periodically alongside books, there'll be films, but I'll be bringing it to you. This is exactly what you need to see that's hidden from you. And so perversion, lust, and degeneracy is the foundation of the modern LGBTQ movement. It is the foundation of Black Lives Matter, which comes out of San Francisco, where Mr. Holmes and them funded them. This all goes together. This Coon Buster segment is done. Pray for me. I need to work on my logo and a podcast and other things. I need to go to bed. I got a 12 o'clock program. Please go back to the Randy Short YouTube. Please disseminate the videos. You don't have to watch them all. Watch some of it, share it. If you can donate, my Cash App is right there. Dr. Randy Short. PayPal is wrandyshort@gmail. If you like our fellowship, it's Salt Ministry DC@gmail.com. Pretty soon, as we work on our not-for-profit status, we do have business status. I hope you pray for me. I've been asked to go to Atlanta, Georgia, to meet with other folks who want to fight against these deviant guys running for the Senate. Asaf, I call Jack Off, and Warnock, who I call War Nuts. Jack Off, War Nuts. They both have promised to support the Gay Equality Act, which would legalize pedophilia, which would be the mass rape of our Black children. And my soul ain't rested. So this is why I'm angry. This is what's keeping me up at night. This Coon thing really just messed me up. I mean, the Coon who just turned me out have made me crazy like this. A part of me would like to not care. But in the words of the prophet, it's like fire shut up in your bones. The indignation of the stuff that they want to do to the rest of us if we don't speak up. So, brothers and sisters, hook a brother up. Thank everybody. If you can't donate, tell someone about it. I'd like to have a channel, if it's not too unreasonable, maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people. I mean, Tariq and them have 1 million. I don't even need that many. If I could just reach so many thousands of people a week and get people to think, they don't have to agree with me. I really don't care a flying damn if you don't like what I'm saying, but I'll always bring you documentation. I don't care about ignorant Black people's opinions, or I really can't stand it. A podcast, I'm going to set one up in the next few days. I'm going to even set one up for my mama. I just have to look. If y'all know of a good podcast group, I'm going to get one. But we can overcome. We shall overcome. Pray for me. Pray for my auntie, Kim Weston. I'll be interviewing Sister Keisha. Sister Keisha up from New York. One of the finest Black women leaders you ever going to meet. Yep, you go see. I work with real sisters. I just not pork chop feminists. I just won't do it. You can't make me do it. I won't do it anymore. Thank you, Brother Thompson. Keep pushing it. I'm going to work on disciplining myself to try to do 30-minute, 20-minute, 15-minute pieces alongside the really long ones. Just put it out. If it doesn't offend y'all, I may just get a clip from someone's film, put it up there so you can see it. Sometimes it's better to show you than to tell you or to read it. Whew. Pray that everybody stays safe. In fact, you heard it right. I've been asked to come down and protest against the pastor of Martin Luther King's old church, that little bald-headed Luciferian, apostate, lying, piece of trash, pulpit, pimp, scum, Warnock. Yeah, I said it. God help me. God help me to be down there. I don't want to take any shots to get on the plane. If I don't have to take a shot, I'm going. And we're going to pray the building fall in on those folks in there. It's ridiculous. We need to get, I'm going to tell you something. Until black people humble themselves before God and pray to the Most High to get this crap up off of us, we're doomed. There's a song, without God, I could do nothing. Without God, I would fail. Without God, life would be rugged, like a ship without a sail. Well, we're like a boat that goes nowhere because there's no God in it. There's no God in this Black Lives Matter. There's no God in this stuff. We've become a godless people. If you go back and you read about the Hebrews, when the Most High was with them, there was a man, a crooked, evil, New Age preacher by the name of Balaam. And what he wanted to do was to get the people sexy and freaky and nasty, so the Most High would be appalled by his own people so they could be destroyed. This is the same thing that they're doing to us right now. And by the way, all of you folks and you little African spirituality, beads and bullshit, if it's not helping people in Africa and they're all running after the Bible now, even when it's full of white people, why should we want dead religions that didn't do anything, didn't help us, didn't overcome colonialism, slavery, white imperialism? It's not overcoming the Chinese. It's not overcoming corruption or hunger or anything. What use are these things to us? Balaam, Peor, yes, he's wicked. And we've got Balaam. Warnock is a Balaam. Obama is a Balaam. Maxine Waters and John Lewis are Balaam. Gillum is Balaam. The CBC, the Boule is Balaam. We need to reject them. God bless you. And man, and they're only like 72 people. It's interesting. If I use vulgar language, I have like 1 trillion people watching. If I use proper language, people disappear. It's amazing. Anyway, MFM, y'all. May God give us all the MFM and the justice and reparation and the healing, at least for a remnant. I'm doing the best I can from my little basement library. Y'all take care. I will be transmitting as often as I can, as many as 3, 4, 5 times a day, depending on how my feeling is. Thanksgiving is a scam holiday, but get together with family, not too much. You don't want to catch nothing. But as a person, as an Aboriginal American, even this holiday is offensive. If you really know the Thanksgiving, let me just tell you this, because, this is going to piss me off. The white people went down from Massachusetts Bay Colony and exterminated a whole bunch of Indian or Black Indian folks on the Mystic River. And that's when they started Thanksgiving, that God allowed them to come in and do genocide on a Black community. And they thanking God for it. And we out here eating turkey. The same way we overdo 4th of July. We overdo everything. And we shouldn't even celebrate Christmas. It has nothing to do with the Most High or Yeshua, Mashiach. I mean, we got all of this stuff off. Stay away from the stores Black Friday. Buy the stuff online. They're going to be shootings like that boy shooting people up in Wisconsin or Michigan or Minnesota, wherever it was. Boy shot 8 people. You know, I mean, that's some Hispanic or white supremacist stuff. Don't be targeted. Don't be targeted. Please protect yourselves. Work together. Yeah, the Native Americans. Okay, well, I know we're not Indians. I know, but when you say who the people are, Mr. Cam, nobody knows what you're talking about because people are so brainwashed. So, good night. It is what it is. I'm hoping, as you guys have my email, if you have people that I can interview or talk to, they can even be. If you got some good preachers, some people that can pray, I'm going to start having prayer service. This stuff is so depressing to me. It's very depressing to me to see our people be down like this. I haven't given up. And, the scriptures talk about the last days and end times. These nigga preachers never talk about end times. They just will tell you about prosperity because they want more of your money. They need to be preparing you for the next life. Anyway, God God bless you and keep you. May you have a wonderful week and festive time until we get together again. I'm going to sign off. Good night, everybody.